Hi, and welcome to Sci-Fi Vision Presents Fandom Access for, I had to look, February 8th. Sorry, having a bit of technical difficulty. As you can see, I have no background because for some reason StreamYard is being really annoying. But at least it's working. Karen will be along momentarily, and I am sorry, I was running late, rushing to get set up here, but at least it's working. It appears to be. I open the chat. So, okay, good. It says we're live. I'm making sure. Sorry, I know I'm looking around here, but I'm trying to do more than one thing at a time here. I'm going to put it's, and there goes my monitor. I'm just not having good computer days here. But there's a StreamYard link if anybody wants it. And I will also put the Discord link here. Make sure if you haven't that you join our Discord where we do watch parties for Severance before we do this live stream. Finally, Karen showed up. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good, except I couldn't get my background to work. It was all screwed up, so everybody could see the
background.
corner of my
Sorry,
room.
I'm late. I'm just coming in from dinner.
That's okay. But I'm just moving around my windows. I was rushing to fix everything because I just got off the live stream. But as I was about to say, please, if you haven't, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and hit like. And we will start in 1 second. I got to go grab a Kleenex. I'm going to turn my camera off for 1 second.
Okay. So thanks everybody for joining us. Great avatar there, Jamie. Mine was the same. We all got defaulted to anime. There you are. That was quick. So we already have a couple comments. Hi, everybody. Jamie, your hair's looking a little wavy today.
Thanks. I tried to use she's telling me because we had a discussion about this. I tried to use the, what do you call it? Now I can't even think of what it's called.
Like a scrunch spray or
the thing you put on the hair dryer. I tried waving it. We have today's episode's called Woe's Hollow. So what did you think of this one? You said you didn't like this one as much either, right?
I watched it twice. I mean, I definitely had the feeling while I was watching it the first time that I did not love this episode. We all know Karen hates a dream sequence. And there were parts of this episode where I wondered if people were dreaming. I mean, we did see Irv had an actual dream, right? But there were times when I'm like, what is going on with this? Is this a dream? Is this not a dream? I mean, I don't really think this show is a dream happening in someone's mind, but I definitely had that feeling of disorientation that I guess the producer, the crew, the directors were going for to make us feel as disoriented as the characters. And, there's a big reveal maybe, but there's also many more questions generated by this episode, which is fine at episode 4, I guess, for questions to be piling up. It just felt so different. It just felt like almost like a different show sometimes in terms of the look, the feel, the direction, the tone, all of that.
I know that it was supposed to obviously look different this time, but I agree. I think that the episode just all, like you said, tonally it was a lot different. It was sort of more somber, I guess, for the most of it, and it looked so much different because we didn't get The Office. My only thing is, and we can talk about this more when we get to it, and I know you probably know what I'm going to say, that because we talked about this earlier, that I'm not entirely sure if that area is real or if it's possibility. I'm not talking about the whole show. I'm talking about just the outside, or if it's a simulation, or if like the area is cordoned off, because obviously the area has to be severed for them to be severed. I mean, it doesn't have to, because they can, turn on the OTC protocol, but they make a point of saying that they're turning off the Glasgow block for Helena. So if they have to turn off Helena, they can't be in the real world, or they would just say they're turning on the OTC protocol. It doesn't make sense unless they're in a severed area.
The questions are just, from the minute it opens, like, I think Justin is saying what we all felt, which was, why are they waking up in the outdoors in the snowy wilderness? Like, what is that all about, right? Did you watch the after the show behind the scenes little clip? So
they wanted to have them wake up in the wilderness was kind of, I guess, the idea. So they found a way to do it.
One of the actors, I forget which actor it is, or if it's like the creator, that creator guy who talks during these things, said that it's a little bit of like, oh, you said you wanted to be outside? Okay, let's go outside.
And they were trying to scare them.
Well, scare them, punish them, something, but like they want to go outside. Of all the places you could take them outside, like, why this, right?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, why? I mean, yes, the show is taking place in the winter, and I guess
I'm just retweeting my thing. That's why I'm looking down. But go ahead.
I mean, the show takes place in the winter. It's winter right now on the show. And I guess everything around would be cold, right? They're not going to put them on a plane and take them to Florida, but
their area that they're already at. I mean, they filmed in a specific area, but the environment of the winter worked, really well.
But I mean, like, even if it's winter and I'm taking you outside for the first time, like, why to? I mean, I get it. They want it to be an isolated place. They don't want them to see any other human. They don't want them to interact with any other people, right? So they're not going to go to a park that is more populated or to any place where they might talk to someone. It just felt like and like Irv wakes up in the middle of a lake and he has to walk and they have to climb a cliff and all this stuff. It's very I don't know, like this sort of like team, what's it called? It's called an what is the
it is an outdoor retreat and team building occurrence, Ortbo. The other question I have, because you mentioned about he's on the lake of ice or whatever, it does not seem super safe to put people who don't know how to help themselves in the outdoors in a cold environment like that. That's the other reason I kind of wonder if it's possible that it wasn't real. Just because, they could freeze to death if they didn't do the right thing, potentially.
Yeah. I mean, Justin, what is it? I think what I thought the significance was in the first part of the show is maybe not what I think the significance of it is by the end of the episode, where it appears to have gone wildly wrong, maybe by the end. I mean, I do think the significance part of it is like that bit of like, oh, you want to be outside? All right, we'll take you outside to this very difficult and forbidding place, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. Do you think the goal even is to do team building? I feel like these, like, if I'm Mrs. Cobell or if I'm Milchick or I'm the board, this team is already too cohesive. Like, my goal would be to divide them, which kind of happened. Like, Irv became very divided from all of them over the course of this episode.
Yeah. I've said before, they act like they're trying to give them more of what they ask for at the company. But I think a lot of it's just sort of the illusion of control, the illusion of getting what they want. But yeah, I don't know that they did it specifically to break them up. Just because I don't know that they necessarily would have expected it to go the way it did. But thinking back, I mean, yeah, they knew that Irv, I guess if they've been watching them, they know that Irv is getting angry, is not believing Helena in this case. And I think that they know that, especially because Helena can choose to, that they know that maybe something is going to happen between the two of them and it could cause some issues. So yeah, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it before, but I guess it's possible that it was to break them up as opposed to just make them think they're bringing them together.
Yeah. Like I just don't, I just don't think that anything they really say is true. Like, I just don't believe anything that comes out of Milkshake's mouth. What the board said, I just don't believe anything. And like, to say that they're doing a team building exercise, like, I don't think any of us believe that Lumen really is trying to make the innies happier and meet their needs and meet their requests and demands and stuff like that. It's not even really clear if anybody has made demands except for Mark and maybe his team, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea that and I just don't think it's in Lumen's interest to do team building. in this way, right?
Yeah, I definitely don't think they want to bring them closer. Whether they were purposely ripping them apart, that I don't know. I did want to bring up, I saw Golden Child's one comment here. Oops. That they could have drugged their Audis and brought them to this Lumen location, woke them up. I tend to think that the Audis were in on it, but I don't know. What do you think about that?
I disagree. I just don't. I talked to you a little bit on text today. I just don't see why the Audis would agree to allow the Innie to have the body for two full days. It's a 2-day exercise. It's a 2-day retreat. The Audis agree to a 2-day retreat. They agree to send their body to a not 100% controlled and safe environment. And not only would like Dylan have to agree, but Dylan's wife would have to agree that her husband goes to this place for 2 days and leaves her alone to deal with these kids and do whatever. And like Mark, do you see Mark? I mean,
and see, I don't know. That's where I think it depends whether this is a real location or not. But I figure if it is real, they probably told the Audis, you know, hey, we're doing this team building seminar. This will help them. This will make them happy. Whether that's the case or not is irrelevant. I think that that's what they would have told them. They could have said, like, it's a work thing. We need you to take, you're getting 2 days paid vacation. You know, you'll feel, I don't know. I'm just saying. And that's why I wonder if it's possible it's not even real and the whole thing's a simulation.
Yeah. I mean, the part of the day that the Audi gets is like 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. or whatever is the part that the Audi gets, right? And like, I just don't see why they would agree to that unless there's something in the severance contract that they're, I mean, I don't even.
There could be.
Or they got paid like an extra, like it does seem like Lumen recently, didn't they offer Mark Scout like 20% more to let Mark S go back in and maybe that's your money. I just don't understand why you would agree to like suspend control of your body for 2 entire days.
I guess it depends how much they pay them would be.
I mean, the other thing about it is if it was truly a team building experience, then why the presence of Helena masquerading as Helias, which obviously they know about. Like it's not a team building exercise.
No, but I think they probably would have told them that.
They're not. I don't think they tell them anything. Like Dylan, outside Audi Dylan seems to know nothing about Innie, right? And Mark Scout knows really nothing what Mark S does on the inside. And Helena doesn't. So remember when Helena said, "You're not a person, you can't quit." Like, I don't know that I've seen evidence that Mark Scout really thinks of Mark S as a person with equal rights and things. I don't.
Sorry.
I just don't. To me, I just don't see why the Audis agreed to this, and that to me. So the suggestion, Golden Child, that they could have been drugged. Yeah. The suggestion, like at one point, like, is this even really happening? The suggestion that could this be? Are they really even in a state park? Is this a controlled Lumen environment? I mean, if Lumen, remember when they walked around the whole building and they got to the perpetuity wing and there's this total recreation of Kier's house, and it makes no sense when you see the exterior shot of that building when Mark walks into work in that office building. Like, how is there a full recreation of a mansion inside there, right? And so
I hadn't even thought of that.
Like,
I just thought of it like when you're at Disney World or Universal or whatever, and they have a whole environment inside of it. A building.
But it looks like a legit office building, right? Like, I just don't understand where that came from. And so I'm not suggesting that this takes place indoors somewhere, because it clearly doesn't. But there's just this episode, I talked to you about this, gave me the greatest feeling yet that this is disconnected from reality. And I don't mean disconnected from reality like that these people go to an alternate reality every day. I mean disconnected from the reality that we understand our lives to be, right? Or the reality, disconnected from reality the way a David Lynch show has people that walk around normally talking and interacting, and yet there's all the crazy shit that's totally disconnected from reality that's normal to them.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Like, it did feel a little bit Lynchian to me. There were times that I'm like, oh, this is like borderline David Lynch shit going on here.
Yeah. It was so different. I think that, you know, the thing is that it seems like the majority of the people didn't like the episode as much. We're not alone in that. Everybody that I've heard has said that, or at least most of the people I've heard has said that. but yeah, well, they do wake up here. Now let me see here. Also, I think it's interesting that the way they're dressed, because yes, they're dressed for the warm, for the winter, but to me, I love these shots though. It is shot so beautifully, and I notice how the color is very muted too, which I think, I mean, it's possible. It's just the way it looks, but it looks like they may have altered the film for that.
I
But
feel like, it's literally in a gray area. Wherever
yeah,
they are right now is a gray area. And like that's what we're seeing. By the way, like All City, I've heard people say it was the best episode of the show ever. I believe a lot of people feel
I'm
that
sure
way.
some people do it. Just most of the people I've heard so far were like, they, at least when I talked to them the other night, I'm not sure about tonight, but they didn't seem to be liking it as much. I don't know. I liked it for certain reasons. Like overall, I kind of missed The Office, but I liked it in the sense that it was different. And when I watched it the first time, because and again, everybody has to understand, I get a lot of times a very different opinion because I see them all in order. Like I don't wait, a week each time. So sometimes I think when you're doing that, because you're not waiting a long time in between each episode, you kind of take it a bit differently. And when I saw it the first time, I really, really liked it a lot. And then this time it felt more, I don't know, kind of depressing a little bit.
I mean, and I do think we're supposed to feel uncomfortable and disconnected the way the innies do, right? Like they did a good job of making a lot of us feel kind of unbalanced and whatever. And Golden Child, anytime people boost up an episode like it'll be the best one ever, it's hard for it to live up to it. And the cast was interviewing saying, "Oh, episode 4 is insane. What do you see episode 4? What do you see episode 4?" Right? And then we didn't get answers. We got confirmation of what we already suspected, and we got more questions. So
yeah, I know if you've watched that behind the scenes thing, they were saying how the actress did do a really good job of it, but being Helena pretending to be Helly, but I think they underestimated that people would how many people would already realize it was Helena at this point, because they were like, nobody is going to know. And you go back, you will see things. And obviously when I've watched it in these past couple of days, I had already known that she was Helena. So I definitely saw more clues as we've gone back. And I've been very, very careful to these past few weeks tell what I thought when I first watched them. But there are a lot of clues. But I feel like in some of the later episodes, like last week especially, she seemed more Helly. So I think that they tried to kind of play both so people weren't sure. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Golden Child, if no one said anything, then everybody would rave about how good it was. That's true. I did read an interview with Brooke, does she pronounce it Lower, where she talked about she's actually playing 3 Hellys. She's playing Helly, she's playing Helena. I call her Helena. I forget her name.
Helena, so yeah, I don't know.
And then the third character she's playing is Helena playing Helly.
Yeah.
Is it right? It's a different, like, she really is playing 3 things here. And it was like, you do feel it was really emotional. These characters are not that emotional when they're the innies, right? And you do feel every emotion. It was kind of like a movie. There are people calling it a bottle episode. This is absolutely not a bottle episode.
I was going to say a bottle episode generally means one, usually interior location, because it's the idea that it's cheaper to make.
The purpose of a bottle episode is to be cheaper and fast to make, right? They're in one location. They're
pretty much always a bottle episode.
No, this is definitely not a bottle. People think that if it's a different location, it's a bottle episode. It's not. A bottle episode is supposed to be inexpensive and fast. It's an interior. There's no way you like go out to this park and transport your crew. And
it's the opposite of a bottle.
I read an interview with Adam Scott talking about, I think it was the interview with Adam Scott, talking about how when you shoot in a park, you can't disturb anything. And they had to build, that was in the behind the scenes, how they had to build like a big bridge to like transport all the crew and equipment because they couldn't like break one twig on a tree. And importantly, I don't know if he said it in this or maybe I feel like it was Brooke Lauer who said it, that you have people leaving footprints in the snow and creating continuity problems. And I immediately thought there's probably an entire subreddit devoted right now to the footprints in the snow.
Oh, I'm sure there probably is.
And how could this have happened when somebody already walked there and blah, blah, blah. And like, boom. There,
yeah, that's a good point.
Right there.
But yeah, I mean, I think it was you who had asked me earlier in the season. Somebody had asked me about how this season was so expensive and how did it take so many millions of dollars. And I remember at the time thinking it's probably because of this episode. Yeah, but yeah, this episode is kind of the opposite of a bottle episode. Before I was joking and saying in a way the show a lot of times is because it's always in the office, but yeah, this is kind of the opposite. So, but they're dropped out in the wilderness. I'm just getting through a couple pictures here. Again, though,
it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous.
And I love how they just have like the little TVs just kind of on the edge there. Now, I know we had discussed this, and again, about is this real? There does not seem to be, my freaking windows keep acting up. Does not seem to be a cord or anything indicating that it's plugged in.
This thing is not plugged into any kind of power source. And do you have the next shot?
I don't know if I have another one on the ground or not.
There's no wire going from the TV to the VCR in that next scene you've got.
Oh, even in the, I see what you mean. Like even going from.
Yeah, there's no wire. Why is there a VCR that's unless it's Bluetooth? It's a VCR, but it's Bluetooth.
In their place,
right?
Yeah, and speaking of, I do want to mention, and maybe I'm wrong, but this to me looks like a DVD player as opposed to a tape this time.
Okay. All right.
Now, if you watch the behind the scenes thing, they made note of how like they've gone from children to adolescents almost in this episode because they're growing up. So I don't know if there's a possibility that would be indicative of why and it represents something, or it's just they wanted to use a DVD player. But to me, that looks like one of those really generic DVD menus that when you burned DVDs a long time ago, when you could make them on your computer, that's what it looks like. And it, that kind of looks like that. Not that that's super important. It does to me.
To me, it was the part where it's not connected. Now, All City suggests in the chat, okay, there's no electric cord. It could be battery powered. I guess it could be charged up. But to me,
the tech's old. Like, could we have a battery powered DVD player now? Sure. Did they have them in the era that all this stuff seems to be coming from? Probably not. Now, that doesn't mean that this is taking place in the past. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying if they're consistent with technology.
I guess. I mean, I'm not aware that there ever was a battery-powered DVD player on the market that I'm aware of, and I'm not aware there was ever one that didn't need a wired. I'm pointing to the TV like you see me that it didn't need a wire to connect to the TV. It could be wired.
Now, you got AirPlay or whatever, but yeah.
But like we skipped over that and went directly to like other kinds of media, right? But to me, I'm just like, what the hell is this? How did that get there? What is it doing there? It has no power. It has no right?
Yeah, it's very, very out of place. It's almost like the technology. To be honest, the technology feels like in the show all the time. It always feels out of place. It makes hipster electronics. You're right. But I mean, if you think about it, when we start watching this, their technology felt very out of place. So it's almost kind of the same thing. Like it just feels wrong. It feels off. Something about it doesn't work. And I'm in a good way. I don't mean that like it doesn't work. They should have used something different. I mean, like it gives you that odd something not
there's
normal.
Nothing in this show that is unintentional. That what this. So this to me, I'm a little older than you, Jamie. But the cart that it's on, if you go back one,
it's like at school.
We had those in high school. It's like in high school when your teacher would like roll in this like TV to show you a film in sex ed, right? Or whatever. I feel like that's when we mostly had films. We had to watch these.
We did in geography because I remember one time I wasn't feeling good and I fell asleep and I got yelled at. That's what I remember. That's what I remember. The cart.
I went to Catholic school and they made us watch movies of women in labor to make sure that so we'd never get pregnant.
I forgot you went to Catholic school.
I mean, Golden Child. They're using the old tech that they use in the Lumen building, but with up-to-date features like wireless technology. That probably is a good explanation. Like
I could buy that.
Probably talked about this for too long already. Thank you for summing it up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Now, I did want to mention here though, when we see this video, now let's see. He says, I lost where it starts. I am so bad at following where this is on. Um, this is after they get out. Sorry. He says about them going to Scissor Cave and everything. And the only reason I want to mention that is I don't know if you noticed it. I assume you might have, but this video is very blippy, like where Karen disappeared.
Yes. You know what? It reminded me of those Marvin Candle videos on Lost.
Yes, exactly. It was a cut, like it looks like pieces were cut out, is what it looks like to me.
Edited, yeah.
Yeah. And that has to be on purpose.
Yeah,
that's interesting. But he says that let's see, he tells them about the ORTBO, and we already mentioned that the team outdoor retreat and team building occurrence. And that with the Audi's blessings, and that's where it blips. So maybe said with the Audi's blessings, but they didn't really want to let you go. No, they said that they'll spend 2 days walking on meadows, thickets, brambles, and brooks that make up Dieter Egan National Forest. Now, they all are kind of like, who is Dieter, which we'll get more into later on in the episode. But he tells them that the information is in the 4th appendix, which they will find. And he says that Keir dictated the final hour of his life in this text of such sanctity that's forbidden upon the severed floor. Now, I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you're still there, Karen, or you're just off video.
I'm here. I just needed to step away. I just needed to.
Okay. Why do you think that this book was outlawed on the severed floor? I have theories.
You know, this goes to Justin's question of who authored the 4th appendix to the Lumen Handbook. I mean,
it's supposed to be written by Keir, but who actually put it together, I don't know.
I mean, first of all, there's so much stuff that's outlawed on the severed floor that, like, why isn't it outlawed, right? Like, Ricken's terrible book was outlawed. Like, all sorts of stuff is outlawed. Also, the fact that this really important piece of the history and the mythology has been unknown to them makes me wonder, is it real, or did they just make it up for whatever purpose they're trying to have this Orpo for? Like, is it a real thing? Who knows? It might not be a real thing. Like, it could have just been created for this, or I mean, I don't know. I just don't believe anything ever that comes out of Milchek's mouth. And so I have to always wonder if this was a real so, like, who authored it? Supposedly Keir authored it, but it's possible. I mean, if you look at the Bible, like, God didn't write the Bible, right? Like, Jesus didn't write the Bible. Like, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John wrote parts of it, but, like, a lot of the Bible was written by a lot of different people. Or if you look at other kinds of historical tracts like that.
Yeah.
But this feels like wholly manufactured corporate. You know, there's a comment somewhere in the chat. I don't know if it's Golden Child or All City about this show as an indictment of capitalism in a lot of ways, or of corporate culture. And, like, I don't know who wrote it. I'm not sure it's a real part of the cult of Keir. Or could it have been manufactured for this thing? I don't know.
It could have been. But the one thing I was going to say is, I think, and we'll, again, I know I keep saying we'll get into it more when we get there. We'll get to this part of the episode. But I personally don't think it's about Keir having an actual brother. I think it's about the part of Keir that was human when he was still sort of free, before they went through all this crap and had all this control over everything. And I feel like it's almost like, not literally, but kind of like his innie. And it was like he severed that part of himself off. And that's why they talk about him being killed and melting. I don't think it's an actual person. And it makes me think, if this was banned on the severed floor, that it could be because they were afraid that it would make the people think that they could do what they wanted. So they didn't want it tempt them or whatever, but now they have a different agenda and they're doing different things. So maybe they changed. And you're right. It could be completely made up for this, excursion and be completely irrelevant. That's kind of what I was thinking when I first watched it.
Well, and also he says, look, they just signed Rick into a contract, so maybe he wrote it.
Yeah, maybe.
I just, I don't, so this fourth gospel, whatever it's called, the fourth something or other, the fourth appendix. Yeah, fourth appendix. I don't think it makes them think they can do whatever they want. I think it is a cautionary tale about doing whatever you want. Like he masturbated.
Right. I'm just saying, I thought maybe like if it was banned, it might be because they worried that, or maybe that by banning it, it makes it seem like it's bad, I guess, and that they shouldn't do it, where they have to let them know that it, you know what I mean? Like that's why they're saying it's banned. Well, I don't know.
I don't know if it's really banned. It might not be banned. It might just never have showed up down there. I think what's important is being like the part where they're like, Milchek is like, oh, this is banned, but you get to see it. Like the idea that forbidden fruit kind of, right? Like who wrote it, where it came from, I don't know. But this has been banned on the Severance floor, but you guys get to see it.
So it must be important because it was banned and now they want to listen to it.
It could just be a lie. Like whether it was written for this or not, maybe they just didn't know about it. And they're like, oh, let's tell them about this. It makes no sense because these people have free reign to walk all around the Severed floor. Why can't they tell everybody about it? Right. I just don't really.
It's more manipulation at any rate, regardless of the reason.
Absolutely. Definitely.
And I did want to mention, I had started to mention before and I got sidetracked. I was going to say they look like they're dressed like what I would usually think of when they do like movies and stuff is like in Russia.
They do have a little bit of a Russian.
Yeah. So, okay, we saw that. So he tells them that they are going to go to, I lost it. Scissor Cave. It's something like Scissor Cave because it made me think of the cuts in the video when he said that. That's why. But as they're standing here and he's telling them this, they got to go find the fourth appendix. Basically, is what he tells them. Like we've been over. Even like just the shots of the cast. It's like it's really dynamic the way it's. But they see who looks like Mark standing there, pointing in the right direction to go, and he says that. That there will be some help along the way. And he also says that they're going to be going, Scissor Cave, they're going to be going to the very same grotto where Kier tamed the four tempers for the first time. And that is part of what makes me think maybe, like I said, if it's legit, that it was more about a side of him, because the four tempers are kind of like emotions, right? I mean, that's essentially what it is. And that's why I was saying, like, if he severed off his emotions, he tamed the tempers. That's the other reason I kind of looked at it like that. And the quote he says is, "Stray not from Kier's path, lest you roil in nature's wrath." I was thinking wrath isn't a temper. I was thinking it was. I think that's why I highlighted that. But he says they'll get help along the way. And they see Mark pointing. Now, this is not... And if you look at Internet Movie Database, it even says this is not Adam Scott. This is not any of the actors. I think that it would have been very simple to take clips of the actors and put them in. I think the fact that it is not the actors is on purpose.
I mean, I think it's cheaper to cast an actor than to do it digitally. To cast a non-speaking extra who doesn't have to make scale.
True. To stand I just feel like on this show, I don't know. I thought it was probably.
I'm not saying. I'm just putting out an alternate.
Yeah, thought. No, you're right with that. But
just devil advocate it, like that. You could just get some extra to stand there. They don't get a speaking. They don't get. They don't. If you don't speak, you don't get paid as much. And there, but we're going to talk about this some more later when we see the other indies
actors, whichever they are.
I did think as I saw the four of them throughout the show that I was like, what is going on? The first time I watched it, I was like, what is going on with that? Is that a projection? Is that in their mind? Is that whatever? On second watch, I paused it. I stood up and walked right up to my TV. I watched it on TV, not on a computer. I walked over to my big TV and looked at it to try to see who is it? Is it a different actor? What's going on? And so right now, I'm going to agree with you that it's a different. It's not Adam Scott standing there.
No. And I see what you're saying. It would be cheaper, but I'm just not sure how much money it would really cost to take like one shot of them going like this in the middle of the snow pointing. Yeah, I don't know. Also, I don't know which shot it is if I have it here, but I also, when I watched this the first time, we've talked before, there's a lot of things about reflections in this show. And obviously this is kind of like showing maybe a reflection of them. If you look at some of these shots, the way they shot the sky, it looks, now see there, you can see it's mountains, but one of them I have here, the sky looks very much like the water. I thought was interesting. And it was just, I don't know which one it is. It's here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Does that not look like waves the way they did that? I don't know if it was intentional or just to me looks like waves and I'm pulling something out of the clouds that isn't there.
I mean,
but it looks like
if you flip that upside down, it could look like a lake, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant. It looks like
you're getting it, Jamie. I do.
Yeah.
I just see what you're saying there.
It did not look like sky to me. It looked more like water. So they are heading to the cave, and let's see. I have about that again. I have the colors, so like you said, gray almost. They go in this cave. There's another one of the sky. Sorry, I took a lot of the landscapes just because it's beautiful. Yeah, maybe it's a simulation breaking. There's not Helly, whatever you want to. I don't know if you can see in the picture, but
so I zoomed on that and I was like, yeah. I said, I think that's not her. And then I was like, it could be like a bad shot of her, but I think it's not her when I looked at that.
I especially thought Dylan didn't look like him, but I don't think any of them.
Well, I want to talk about that when we show. I texted you about that, right?
You might have that. I honestly don't remember.
Yeah.
We were talking a lot. There's the cave, and inside there's the fourth appendix. So they start reading it. It ends up supposed to be in Kira's voice, but it's for Dieter.
So this is Scissor Cave, right?
Yeah, this is Scissor Cave. Yeah.
So I can't really answer Justin's question where it is, but I did text you. I was like, Scissor Cave. So scissor, sever. Like you use a scissor to sever things. Like I just,
that's good. Yeah. Right? Okay. So I missed that text, but yeah.
I just felt this real. Ever since we heard Fetid Moppet, Spoiled Brat, I've been like really listening to how they talk, and I was like, oh, it's scissor, sever.
Yeah, this book is also full of that kind of speech.
Why is it called that?
That would make sense. Yeah, it made me think of the film when I was watching it. That's why I marked it down. But actually, it does sound kind of like sever. What does he have to do with it? I don't know what he has to do with the cave. Other than
wait. I didn't mean to click that. Sorry, we're not there
yet.
Ooh, I'm losing my.
The book says, I have written down that she was reading it, that has Kier saying, I was born not into this world alone, that he shared his womb with his twin brother, Dieter. And then I love Dylan's I forget what he says. He says something like, oh no, that's later when he yells at, when Milchek says they're twins. He's like, I was right, because he said that's what those things are. But in this really fancy speak, again, as everything else in the show, she reads that basically he had a twin, and the twin asked him to take him into the woods to live as paupers. And he used, against his better judgment, he went into the woods with him towards Woe's Hollow. And Irving says, we're going to walk in the brother's footsteps. Now, I meant to and forgot. I apologize for this. I was going to Photoshop those all together to make one map, and I meant to do it and I forgot because I made sure I got all the shots of it. But that's all Woe's Hollow and where they're going. Yeah, you know what's funny now that I'm looking at this? That the compass, I mean, I know a compass is kind of an inset, but if you could look at that as the compass is in the water and the sky, it kind of looks like that reflection.
Yeah.
All right. But so they go, and let's see. Says that Once he was concealed by Flora, my brother unfastened himself. The din of his fervor fell strangely into concert with the music of the woods, and I for a moment could not tell the two apart. His every thrust found rhythm with the trill of the crickets and the moaning of the wind and the snowfall's yearly thaw. And then Dieter became that night an instrument of nature, and nature played with Dieter with arrogance. And I had no choice but to listen as he spilt his lineage upon the soil. And this is the part that Milchick is reading later, which, as Helly points out, basically means he masturbated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cautionary tale. Don't do that. It's like, don't do that. You'll go blind, right? Because technically it is about his eyes falling out. So maybe that is kind of what this is alluding to. I mean, I think everybody has heard that old wives' tale at some point that if you do that, you'll go blind. They all,
Yes.
I mean, at least I've heard them. Supposedly they used to tell boys that. I mean, I don't know because I'm not a boy, but
Yeah, I mean, so it's weird that they're cautioning against that because, like, what, like, why is Kier like?
I don't know. That's why I said maybe it was more about like before he got rid of his emotions, he was freer, he did what he wanted. I don't know. Or maybe it's about saying that it should be to have a baby. I mean, I know a lot of people think maybe Helena is pregnant after this, which I tend to not agree with, but I know some people think that. But yeah, I don't know. But there's
Yeah,
the whole thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
dying, Golden Child feels like Dieter dying is symbolic of totally killing off your independent thoughts that differ from women's law. I mean, I like that. That, like, but in the sense that, is this, I said I don't think this field trip is really about team building. Like, to Golden Child's point, maybe the field trip is really about like getting them on board with Lumen and like really buying, like, recommit yourself to the Lumen mythology and the Lumen law, as Golden Child calls it. Because it's not a cautionary tale about masturbation. It's a cautionary tale about
free thinking.
I was going to say self-indulgence, not that.
Self-indulgence, yeah,
not
that's
that
good.
I'm saying people who masturbate are self-indulgent. I don't mean that, but right, like indulging your own.
Yeah, it means like to the end
impulses, your own impulses, your own needs, your own wants, as opposed to the collective. The twins are like a collective, right? Like he did something for himself and was killed.
Yeah.
Maybe. I have no idea.
We don't really know.
We're making stuff up on the fly here, right?
Yeah, as we go. There's Dylan.
Oh, there's always just who the F is Dieter.
Yeah, I love that. Now that does not to me look anything. I mean, it looks like him, but I mean that to me was.
Did you zoom in on it? I asked you to zoom right on this one.
Yeah,
I think this. So on my television, where he was like a foot tall, I think that person is wearing a mask, and I think up by the eyes, I could see like a black line and a black line here. Like they could be his glasses, but doesn't it look like that's a bad Photoshop of the face onto a body, right? And I don't think if this show was doing digital, they wouldn't do it that crappy. And I felt like almost like when you go to a party and people have like photocopied your face and put on a stick, like that's the quality I feel like I was looking here.
Yeah, it kind of does. And that's why I think it's intentional that they're not actual copies.
But it's like a bad, like.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just a copy, it's a bad copy. I kind of thought that too, because, and that's why I said about why wouldn't they just use the actors? It almost kind of looks like possibly that maybe even the person was photoshopped into the scene, maybe, because like the way he's kind of sunk into the snow. I don't know. Something about it looks off.
Well, it made me think that this is not a construct. It's not happening in their mind. Like that Lumen has brought some rando and put a mask on his face to be Dylan. Like this is like, it's funny they have all this technology, but like if I was going to put you through this in real life, Jamie, I'd have to get a person to come out there and put a mask on, right? Like that's what Lumen, like, it's a low tech way of having a doppelganger.
Yeah, and to be fair, from that far away in real life, when you're not looking at it in a TV, they wouldn't be able to tell probably.
I'd want to go to Justin has a question here somewhere that basically says, what is the point of the doppelgangers? Or what do the doppelgangers represent? I mean, I think maybe, I don't know. I think they don't. Like, why not just have a sign that with an arrow that says that points this way, right? Like,
well, yeah, I think. Well, it could be if what I said was right. And again, I was, going by just whatever I thought it might mean. But if that version of Kier is representing the part of Kier that he got rid of, like maybe it's representing that they want them to get rid of this part of them. Is it just to make them feel closer to Kier because they have a twin? Or does it represent their Audi? I mean, you think about those pictures, right? The paintings that they gave to Milchick, which were totally racist, but supposedly was because they wanted to make him feel like he was closer to Kier, or he wanted him to see himself in Kier or something to that effect. So I kind of look at it as they could be saying, well, Kier had a twin, so do you. Yeah, I don't know. Or it just represents their Audi, and Occam's razor were going way too deep into it. I don't know.
I don't know either, but Lumen did it on purpose. They didn't just put a sign that like a trail marker that says turn here. They had your twin pointing.
Yes.
I don't know what they represent. I mean, it really it really affected the disorientation that we felt, right? And I mean, yeah, I don't know.
And I want to bring up James' comment here because I didn't even think to mention that. When I looked it up under New Database, the doppelgangers are listed as shadows. Like it says Mark's shadow.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Now, is that just what they named them? Or does it really, we go back to, I know David all the time is talking about shadow selves and all that. Like maybe it's more representing, and that would make sense too if you think of a shadow like as darker. Like I was saying, maybe it's like their dark side, their like you said, their indulgent side. Could it be representing them in that way? I don't know. So they continue on. Now this, I took a picture of them, but then I took a picture of the ice. Now you said the same thing I said, is that those look like little freaking hands. Like
they're baby hands, right? They're baby hands.
I've never seen ice form like that. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't, but yeah, it doesn't look real. It's just really weird.
They're baby hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a little creepy.
They do. So as they're going on, Mark and Helly are talking, and Irving is watching them. And this is where he asks them, what are you guys talking about? And about, she might have lied about what she saw. And he starts asking again about the night gardener. It's clear his distrust is growing at this point. Now, they come to it. Yeah. Now they come to this, and I think it's Mark says maybe it's a seal. To me, it looks like a mound of mush. I cannot make out a seal for the life of me.
It was easier to see in the long shot that was right before this.
I was gonna say I don't think I have
a shot at it.
I got it here, like that. It kind of looks like a seal there, but
more like a seal here. If you zoom on it, it really looks like a big old it's a little bigger than a harbor seal, right? It's too big, like more like an elephant seal. But you can see the eye in the front, the body. It took me some looking at it to get it. It definitely looked like a and the tail there by Helly's feet is seal like.
Right there.
Yeah, like I think it's kind of like a seal. I didn't even really like. Let's not even get into the part that a seal cannot be in the woods like that. Like a seal. Like that's
like a polar bear in the jungle, right?
It's like a polar bear in the jungle because first of all, a seal wouldn't live in a lake, and if it did live in a lake, it couldn't climb up that cliff to go where they are and all this crazy shit, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure that seals are in that cold. Well, I mean, I guess it could be winter in that lake.
There are all kinds of
seals wouldn't climb up there like that.
I mean, a lot of seals prefer cold weather, right? Like I've seen seals in Alaska. I've seen nature shows about seals in Antarctica, but they all live in the ocean not in a creek,
pond.
right? Which is
Yeah.
what they're standing alongside, and
Yeah.
and they climbed a cliff to get to this point.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah. I almost kind of wonder if they wanted them to find this dead thing. I do kind of question why Mark would even know it's a seal, but I guess that's just kind of one of those common knowledge things that we don't understand.
I mean, we've
how
talked
they know.
about them having total common knowledge. They just
You
don't.
know. I don't know. I'm just looking at it as if I couldn't figure out it was a seal, I would working.
Look, we know that they have knowledge of wind. They just don't know what wind feels like, right?
Yeah.
They have knowledge of the sky. They just have never seen the sky. So I think it's knowledge of a seal. But there's also the part where I think somebody says, "Why is it so messed up?" And Mark goes, "Maybe this is what dead things look like."
Yeah.
I didn't even really. You and I haven't talked about this because we text a lot. And I haven't really thought about this because this was like to me, this was like one of those kind of Lynchian kind of things. Like, oh yeah, there's a dead seal there, and let's just keep walking. Of course, of course, Irv's like, we should eat it.
Yeah, we're hungry. And this is when Dylan says, and this goes back to what we were saying earlier, is are they really out there in the wilderness? Because he's like, they wouldn't let anything happen to us down here.
Yeah,
he's like, we'll get food. Don't worry about it.
So the chat is silent right now, which I'm guessing like maybe nobody knows why there's a freaking seal at the side of the little creek on top of a cliff, or what a seal represents here.
Yeah,
I've got no seal symbolism to offer right now.
I should have looked it up. I didn't even think about it. And then it means wealth, protection, and spiritual transformation. Wealth and abundance, strength and protection, life, but it's dead, so I'm not sure it means life. Yeah, Allcity's right. It might just be trying to scare them. It might simply be.
I actually, when I first looked at it before Mark said it looks like a seal, I was like, "Is that a dead bear?" Which I guess might be.
Yeah, I didn't know. Oh, Golden Child says makes sense. Maybe they wanted to show them death, foreshadowing them wanting to kill off their doppelgangers.
Maybe.
And that also begs the question too, like we've talked before about, are they trying to control people and get rid of their outies, quote unquote? It could even be meant in that sense a little bit. Yeah, I don't know, but they make a point of saying it's dead. And then Mark tells Irving to calm down. He says he knows he had a bad experience last time he was outside. And Irving gets upset at Dylan. Why'd you tell him? And then he's like, I didn't tell him anything. So yeah, he was not happy he shared that. But they head to the hollow.
Wait. Why, Justin, why do they decline to eat the seal carcass?
Gross.
Because it's gross. And it's only a 2-day thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, we don't know when we can eat. When are we going to get to eat? But like, you can go 2 days without eating and live, right?
Yeah. I mean, Irving may not know that though. Like, I don't know if you're an innie, if you would know how long you could go without eating, but I would think he wouldn't be hungry. So I'm not sure. I don't know.
I know. We're going to come back to the rest of Justin's comment. I just wanted to throw that first one up there. I mean, yeah.
Okay. This is when there's another shot of it there.
Yeah.
It looks like an arrow right there. I just noticed that. I know it's not, but it kind of looks like an arrow, doesn't it?
Yeah, I thought there's another shot of it where I thought it had tusks, and see that little pointy thing. I was like, is that a warthog? What is the?
It kind of does look like a tusk.
Right?
Yeah.
I was like, is that what is? It has tusks. What is it? I don't know.
Maybe. And so there are the 4 of them up above the waterfall.
Yeah.
They're also very stiff too, and impersonal. The way they're standing.
There are multiple shots of them 4 in a row like that from different angles and perspectives in this episode. To some extent, was the director just having a great time being out of that fluorescent chemical farm? I don't know.
This is when Milchek comes up. So Milchek's dressed all in white. I feel like there has to be some significance.
He looks so good. His outfit is so
stylish.
Oh my god, he's so chic right here. Yeah, it's so awesome. He got a great costume this episode.
So do you think though that there's a point to him and Miss Wong being in white? Because I'm not sure if it like I haven't necessarily thought of a reason for it other than it looks cool, which could be the reason.
I mean, she's always in kind of a uniform. She has like a schoolgirl uniform that she kind of wears, and I mean, why are they in white and the MDR team is in black and these two are in white? I mean, to show that they're not the same, that they're management versus staff, that they're not equals, that they're, I mean, there's definitely like
good reason as any.
Right.
Yeah. He says that Kira's twin was always with him, and that's why we've provided them for you. And that's when Dylan's like, fuck you. What's he say? Like, fuck you. I was right. He's like so happy he was right.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So there they are again. And he's all happy. And there they are again. See, they look like, yeah, like dolls. Like it just looks so.
Well, those are the four. Those are the four shadows. The shadows, the doppelgangers,
whatever you want to call them, and they're very creepy looking. I think in that scene.
Do you think so? Do they really look that different from the four we just saw? The other four, like a couple slides ago.
They just look like they're standing so odd. They just make. I don't know.
You just said the other four looked really stiff and weird.
Yeah, well, it was the same thing, a little bit further away. It was pretty much the same shot.
I mean, I think they are freezing.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They don't have coats on. They're just kind of standing there. Yeah, I don't know.
I kind of wondered if they,
So when they get down to the hollow, they are in, at least I assume that where this part's the hollow. I don't know exactly, but maybe I guess that was the hollow where the waterfall is. That's a good shot. Milchek makes a point of saying they have their MDR blue tents. I'm not sure where him and Miss Wong are staying. It's kind of, I don't know. They're not obviously not staying where they are. He makes a point about the outhouse. Also, he says washroom as well. I was trying to think, washroom's Canadian, isn't it? You don't usually hear people say washroom.
I mean, I think that could be. So you and I both live in the U.S. I think that could be a regional thing.
Yeah, I just wondered. It made me think about. I think I've heard it. I think it's Canada that usually says that.
Maybe.
I think they film in Canada. I think probably. No, I don't know. Where do they film? No, I'm thinking of Yellow Jackets.
I think they film most of it on a soundstage somewhere. I mean, I don't know about washroom. I mean, it could be like.
No, it just stuck out to me. I don't think it necessarily meant anything.
I think it's just maybe not colloquial in the place where you and I live, just like a creek or a brook or a stream. Depending on where you live, you might say that. Or I was more intrigued by where he said the washroom is stocked with four-ply bathroom tissue. He calls it
washroom tissue.
4-ply washroom tissue, and I was like, 4-ply. I only have 2-ply in my house.
Yeah, well, they got an expensive toilet paper.
I don't think I've ever even heard of 4-ply. I mean,
I never really thought about it. I guess usually with toilet paper, it's not necessarily 4-ply.
It's 1-ply. There's only 1-ply or 2-ply. I'm like 4-ply.
Is it maybe because there's 4 of them? I don't know.
4-ply is some seriously cushy, soft toilet paper.
Yeah, it's expensive toilet paper in an outhouse. But he also says that they have torches for comfort and safety, that it has heat and light, double duty.
Yeah, why not a flashlight?
That down because again, it's kind of like, two sides of things parallel.
Yeah, why not a flashlight? Why not a flashlight? Because fire looks cooler, I guess.
I guess they seem to be excited about it, but yeah, it definitely I think can mean that duality because he talks about the double duty duality. I think it was Golden Child earlier that said fire and torches represent personal enlightenment, which I don't know if you would get that with the flashlight. But they definitely could mean that because they're kind of learning and putting, just like how they say in that, in the behind the scenes that they're moving into adolescence, they're growing up a bit.
Yeah.
Then Helena comes into Irving and she gives him a little, which I think was cute and seemed, I guess, Helly-ish. She gave him a little snow seal for him to eat. She made it out of snow. And clearly he says that he shouldn't have said about eating it, that he made him sound irrational. I think that the whole reason she does this is because she's trying to gain his trust. She's trying to get closer to him. He's the one that doesn't believe her, and also she doesn't want him to figure it out either. I think is probably, I would say.
The first time I watched this, I wasn't 100% sure yet if it was Helly or Helena, right? The first time I watched this, I thought she was being nice. The second time I watched this, I thought she was mocking him. I thought it was mean. I thought she was kind of like, oh, here's a seal in case you're hungry. Like, I thought she was kind of needling him a little bit the second time I watched it, knowing being 100% confirmed that it's Helena.
Yeah, I hadn't really I don't know. I didn't see it that way. I more saw it. She's trying to do something nice because she's trying to get him on her good side and also trying to maybe figure out anything he knows.
But think back to the first time you watched it before you knew it was her.
Yeah, I thought it was something nice she was doing.
Were you in the It's Helena, Team Helena already at this point? Like, I was still
I was. I told you. I thought as soon as she watched that video, that it was.
I was still
as I rewatched it, I saw pieces of Helly in her that made me think she acted like Helly, which is things that I said. But no, I thought from the beginning, as soon as she watched that video of them kissing, that it was Helena.
Yeah, Miss J was also wondering. Miss J's reviews was wondering, and I have to listen to some of Miss J's reviews sometimes. But was also wondering why she gave Irving a seal. I mean, the first time I kind of was like, oh, she's being nice. She was a little harsh with him. Like and the second I watched it, I was like, well, she's a jerk.
It's possible. I don't know. I just thought she was trying to get close to him and trying to get him to believe she's Helly. That was sort of how I took it. Because he starts asking her again about OTC and she won't tell him anything. So he still doesn't believe her. So yeah, I just figured she's trying to get close to him, trying to get him to believe her, trying to find out things. He won't tell her anything because he doesn't trust her. Now, what the real answer is, I don't know, but you can definitely see that both ways. Now, Miss Swang is playing the theremin. I don't know why, but it's cool.
That was awesome because the theremin is so freaking weird. Also, Lynchian to me.
Yes. Now they have, it took me a while to realize these were until they said burn them, that these were the marshmallows.
So they are not.
They don't look like marshmallows.
They don't look like marshmallows.
Marshmallows too, aren't they? Like they're huge.
No, they are huge, but I have seen marshmallows like this. Particularly if you were going to make homemade marshmallows, you would probably cut them into cubes like this.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Rather than, and I've seen a marshmallow like this maybe in some sort of like gourmet store. They do not look like the marshmallows that we expect to see at a campfire and roast on a stick, right?
Right.
Yeah, Miss J, they're massive. Like that's a lot to eat. Like,
yes.
And
said they were hungry, so now they won't.
It was weird. I guess I'm too big to get Kier's face on them, but they remind me of Turkish Delight. If you guys have ever eaten Turkish Delight, which is like a marshmallow type of dessert that comes from Turkey. They come in a square like that. But yeah, they're just a little off, right? It's one of the things that's just like a little off. Like they went out of their way to not buy a bag of Jet Puff or whatever we buy in the grocery store.
So don't think is going to tag. Now I'm thinking of marshmallows. I want to eat marshmallows. I don't think that's going to trigger a memory. So that's a weird thing I mean, I guess they wanted Kier's face, but yeah, it's just something, you're right, something else. It's weird. So he starts reading again not again, before it was, I think, Helly reading from it, from the story. And he says that Dieter was in his unwashed in his bedroll, though the pool was primed for bathing, and he ate of the hair they caught and they told each other rhyming jokes till their gullets ached. Again, the wording in this, and the whole wording and everything they say is always weird, but the whole book is like,
because their gullets ached. I was like, oh, you mean till their stomachs hurt? Right? Yeah. Like, I laughed till my stomach hurt. Like, that's a thing that people say, right?
Yeah. And they says about a tickling in his mouth merged or something. I guess that means he laughed. He wanted to laugh again.
So, yeah.
But Kier said that they must return to their father, but he promised to look after him in the ether mill. And he heard a sound from him whimpering. He thought that they'd be woodland paupers forever. And he was looking at him when Dieter's eye came out. And then he goes into this description: popped from his socket, driven by a sudden torrent of pus from his skull. He reached up to grasp at his hair, which was suddenly moss that tore easily from his bleeding scalp. And as the pus from his eye thickened into sap, I turned from my gurgling brother and walked to the pool of the hollow where I knew the waterfall would drown out my brother's cries. Which I love that Dylan's like, that makes sense. That's really smart. Like, can't hear him over the water. Yeah, that whole description clearly, I mean, like Kelly said, it's like his grisly death. But yeah, he basically turns into nature. He melts into the outside. I'm not, other than like she says, it's telling you don't do this, it's cautionary tale. I'm not sure what the whole part of him turning into nature is quite supposed to represent, though. That part I struggle to find. I don't know exactly what it means.
I mean, we covered a little bit.
Yeah, right? I wanted to talk about this. I just tell you that.
You want to click it? You have a picture. The next picture is probably of her laughing, right?
Yeah, somewhere here.
Milkshake sweet sweater. They're all watching it, and there's, he
saw woe. That was the other thing. That this is when he first encountered the temper woe, which I assume it was because he was in sadness because his brother died. Supposed to be.
Oh yeah.
About that. And
he's like, ooh, creepy.
Yeah, a gaunt bride, half the height of a natural woman. Also spoke to me directly from her eyes, which was interesting, and said, "This is your doing. You suffered his wantonness. Now he's no one's brother, only chaos's horde." The end. And see, that's again where it makes me think that maybe it's not an actual person, because she says that Kier suffered his wantonness. Kier isn't the one that did it. So why would he be blamed for doing it? It's almost like it's part of him. I don't know.
I think like you suffered it means like you allowed him to do it. I think you allowed his wantonness and now he's dead. Like this little bit of like my brother's keeper kind of thing going on. Like you let him do it and now he's dead. Like, should he be his brother's keeper? Which is interesting to me. I just thought of this right now, but like the outie and the innie, who's the keeper, right? And then there's an interesting part where now he's nobody's brother, only
he's chaos's
whore, which I'm not really.
I'm not sure if that has a specific meaning, but if we go back to kind of that freedom to indulge in stuff, it's chaos versus order. I don't know. I still think that they don't mean a literal person. I really think it means that side of him, that his subconscious, his free part. But so why does Helly laugh at this is another. Hey, Doc. I see Doc came in. Why does Helly laugh? That I was curious what you thought, because I almost feel like Helena laughing was like a like, I don't think she necessarily meant to. I think she just, I don't know whether she heard the story or not, but I kind of feel like she just, like, she couldn't hold it in. Like, she just really honestly laughed, at least to me. Like, it didn't seem forced. It just seemed like she's kind of like, what's this, crack of shit? This is like, she just started laughing. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it was necessarily planned. I think it was just her honest reaction to it. I think that she was getting into character, and I think she just kind of thought it was funny. Or maybe she's also saying this, and maybe her saying, oh, he masturbated, maybe that's also her explaining it to them in case they don't understand it, because they don't understand a lot of things. That's the only thing I can think is maybe she's kind of like explaining what it means. I don't know.
So I'm looking in the chat and I cannot find the person who made this comment. It might be all.
Oh wait, it's made up. That's why she left.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for finding that. I was looking for it. And this goes to the theory that the fourth appendix isn't even a real thing in the cult of Kier. And
Maybe.
that,
And there's that number 4 again too. Like we are talking earlier about the 4 people, about the 4 ply tissue. I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
four-ply tissue.
Yeah,
But the idea that we discussed earlier, like, is the 4th appendix even a is the 4th appendix even a thing that really exists in the whole culture? And it's a big secret, so like maybe it's not maybe they were just told this. Maybe this story is only for them, and maybe Helena's laughing her ass off because as an Egan, she knows it's not a real part of the.
Maybe. But either way, I don't think it was planned. I think she just honestly laughed because it was such bullshit. Whether it was crap that she doesn't believe it or crap that they made up for the outing. I don't know. I don't think it was planned.
I mean, I don't think if Helena thought the whole Egan, Keir, whatever is bullshit, like, I just don't see her laughing out. She's been so controlled and working so hard to like be this other person.
Yeah,
And that
I don't necessarily mean that she thinks Keir and everything is just that story. I think she just
but like if it's a true, I don't think she'd laugh if it was a true part of the Keir mythology. I think if it's made up for these people, that's why she laughs. I just don't like for her to laugh. She's been so controlled and so like really convinced. She didn't maybe convince the fans, but she convinced Helly's, the only people Helly knows, her 3 closest friends, her only people, that like they had no idea, the 3 of them. She convinced all of them, and that she would just like lose it and like laugh at like. Maybe she'd laugh because she thinks Helly would have laughed.
Yeah.
Maybe Helena laughed because she thinks Helly would have laughed.
She's
trying to be Helly, right? Like I don't know that I see Helena like losing it necessarily.
I guess that makes sense.
But maybe she thinks, maybe Helena thinks that Helly would think it's ridiculous baloney, and that's why she laughed.
Maybe. I just Milchek did look pissed. Like it didn't look supposed to be put on that he was pissed. But either way,
I mean, I don't think that every moment of what she does is scripted, right? Like she's still improvising always.
Yes, I guess that's true.
And so Milchek looked pissed. Also, maybe Milchek looks pissed because he's supposed to look pissed.
Yeah.
Like, could it totally be planned? Like, you laugh when I read this and I'll pretend to be pissed? Yeah, it could be totally scripted. Right?
Yeah. But the point is, this story, at any rate, is being used like a fable or something to teach them. Yeah, and I had here, which I've already said, I think that was like his unruly part, and they're trying to erase that part of him. He does say that maybe in the morning they'll have time for the next chapter, Keir and the Thieving Nanny. There's chapter 2.
The Thieving Nanny. So what is that? Is that like a baby snatcher who stole a baby? Or is that just like a nanny in the house who steals your money or something? Like, what the hell is that?
I don't know. Yeah, I would look at it as a nanny, like watches kids, but I don't know. I have no idea.
Let me ask you about this scene. So Helly laughs,
and
then Mark laughs. Like, do you think Mark really thought it was funny, or Mark is like, it's part of his like making goo-goo eyes? Like he's laughing because he's trying to like.
Maybe, but it could also be that, like I said, maybe she's explaining it to them. Like I kind of wonder if they understood it. Not that they don't understand that, but like the context of what it was supposed to represent. Like maybe he didn't get it until she said it even, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, that is funny." That was my other thought with him laughing.
But that they didn't get it. I mean, it does say he spilled his. What did it say? He spilled his lineage. That's very biblical. Like in the Bible, they would say like he spilled his seed, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that she was explaining it to them. Nothing else has ever been. I don't know.
But they definitely waited. I feel like they did start laughing, like they felt like they had permission to laugh since she laughed, because even Dylan started laughing once she laughed.
Yeah. Okay. So, fair. Yeah. It's like they had once one person broke the ice, they felt.
Yeah. Then they all can. But Urban says Yeah, Irving says, did his brother really die that way? And Milchick says, the handbook of riches work with tales of the founder's life. Every word is truth. And that's when she says he melted and turned into the forest because he masturbated. And they start laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but I liked the scene at any rate. It was funny. And I'm also kind of thinking, is this really appropriate with a teenager there? That was my other thought. I mean, I know the actress is older, but I'm kind of thinking this isn't really an appropriate story for.
I mean, it's not appropriate for her to have a job. I mean,
That's
yes,
true.
yes, the actress is 18. It's possible Miss Wong is 18, and
Yeah, but I
has
don't think
works.
they wouldn't keep commenting how young she
And
is.
certainly, much younger children are familiar with the concept of masturbation.
Yes,
right.
but
Yeah,
to talk about it in front of a young girl is kind of a little.
but yes, I mean, I get it. But she's a coworker and like basically their boss, right? She's an authority figure to them. It's one of the off-putting things about this whole season. And there's a point where Dylan said, "So why are you a kid?" Right? Not this episode, but in a previous episode, he's like,
"They're not making you stay here, are they?" Or something like that. They're not hurting you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's become kind of a
weird,
running joke.
But by the way, look at that sweet turtleneck sweater she's wearing.
Yeah,
and
that's what Miss J said. Yeah, if she were a kid, it's still weird to talk about it for her. And that's kind of my point. Like it's not that she wouldn't understand it, but she's a young girl. It's not polite to talk about it in front of her.
Even if she's like 20 or 22,
and an adult.
Even if she's 20 or 22, it's weird for all these 40 plus.
Yeah, that's kind of my point. Yeah,
people to be talking about it. Yes, and it's also like not appropriate workplace conversation. Even if it's
not. Yeah, they need to call PR, right? Or not PR.
HR girl, HR.
Golden Child says that must be in reference to that picture. I couldn't tell what it was. I guess that
baby Kier standing behind the nanny in a rocking chair, making a stabbing motion. That is some creepy shit. There's a photo of baby Kier standing behind the nanny in a rocking chair, making a stabbing motion.
Yes, I couldn't tell what was in the picture. That's why. But I guess oh wait, yeah.
I can't really see that, but now I'm going to have to go back in. Can you make it bigger? Can you make it any bigger? Yeah, look at him. There he is I'm pointing again. He's like on the top right.
He's like stabbing her. And it was called Kier and the Thieving Nanny. Maybe it seems like it's Kier that's doing the stabbing. Yeah, that's interesting, but very strange. So let me go back to where we were here. So he tells her to throw the marshmallows into the fire because they're for team players. They lost.
And everyone is shocked, right? Like Mark's like, "Oh, come on, Mr. Milchick." He's like shocked and like, "Why are you being so mean?" Kind of as Mark's like tone of his voice to me, right?
Yeah, like we're just fooling around. We're not doing anything wrong, which what I kind of think was like I said, the point of the story. They need to not be so free, I guess.
And it seems small, but it's kind of huge. Like none of them have ever sat by a campfire. None of them have ever eaten a marshmallow before, right? Probably, or roasted a marshmallow over fire, certainly. And it's
a perk for them.
It's punitive. It's a perk. Yeah, it's punitive, and it's a way you treat children. Like you're not having any dessert now, right? But it's even meaner. It's like your parent. Throwing it away. It's really. I felt it was really punitive in the way you might treat a child.
Yeah, well, we've talked before about their infantizing, so definitely.
Yeah.
But
it's just mean.
It is mean because you're right. Like it was something special for them. They're like,
look at his face. Oh my God, it's an awesome picture.
No, don't take my marshmallows. And Ellie's just laughing, or Helena, and he's like, too bad. And Dylan's like, no. I like they all have a different expression. Helly, that was when they're still laughing about it. Helly's, that was before he left. Helly asked what they think is Dick Durn to do, and Irving's like, "This isn't funny." And that's when he says, and we had a long conversation about this in the chat earlier. Is it goo goo eyes or googly eyes? Because
goo goo.
That's what I thought, but yet I guess some people think it's googly, and it does say, like, if you look up the definition for googly eyes, it also has that definition. But yeah, I think it's goo goo. Googly to me, the more I thought about it, is more like the little plastic stick-on eyes.
Yeah, no, goo goo eyes is like,
But it's slang, so it doesn't really matter.
like puppy dog eyes, like
Yeah,
yeah.
But he tells Mark to quit making goo goo eyes about or at her, and tells Helly just to tell him about what happened. He's like really getting mad she won't tell him. He knows something's up. He is still saying all kinds of things about it. He's trying to get her angry. I think he's trying to make her slip is of whatever and accidentally relay it, because she gets up, or he gets up. He says, you're using your pupils to make love to her while your Audie's wife rots away.
That was crazy. That was crazy.
I know. And both Mark and Dylan yell at him. And, Helly, he says later that Helly isn't cruel and that she was cruel, but that was pretty damn cruel, what he said.
I mean,
cruel to Mark, maybe not to her, but it was kind of cruel to Mark, I thought.
But he's calling Mark out, and it actually goes to the conversation we're going to have later about, like, who controls there are like basically two people in control of one body, and what does that mean? Like, I mean, Irving could have said it differently, but like a week ago, Mark was like, I gotta find Miss Casey, right? I think she's we owe it to my Audi, and I also owe it to Miss Casey. She's one of us, like that whole business.
And he's kind of like, what happened to that?
And what happened to it? Now it's gone because you're like here at night with Helly, and maybe you got a shot, right? Like,
yeah.
But
I don't think Dylan is like offended. Like he yells at him, like, "Why would you do that?" But then that's when Helena says, "It's okay. We all know you're upset." He's upset because he won't ever see Bert again, and he's really lonely. And that was cruel. That was outright cruel.
This is the moment that I knew when she said that. I was like, "It is 100% Helena."
Yeah.
Like,
and I think he knew it wasn't her too. He's already figured it out at this point.
I wonder if there's anyone in the chat who wasn't certain up until this moment, and did anybody else feel this was like the decisive 100% proof? Not 100% proof, but the moment that pushed me over the edge to be like, oh hell yeah, that's not Helly.
Yeah. Well, Chad said he's trying to wake Mark up. He knows there's BS going on, and Helena's a part of it.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
Mark is blind to it. I think he knows at this point that Mark's not gonna wake up.
No, but that was the moment when I knew. I'm like, oh, Helly would never do that. That's definitely not Helly. And this is the last piece of the puzzle that I needed to come down on team
Helena.
It's Helena. Yeah.
Right. So there's the burning face of Kier. So let's see. This is when he comes in. Okay.
This surprised me a little. I didn't expect Mark to be this forward, that he would come to her tent and into her tent like that. He has been shy.
Yeah. I feel like at first it was about cheering her up. I don't know that he originally intended it to go there. I don't know. Because, I mean, he is talking about Dieter's penis, but I don't know. I mean, I thought at first he was more just kind of going to check on her when he says that, and they kind of talk. And that's when she says, that was mean of me. And I don't know, some of this conversation seemed, I don't know, not completely real, but like maybe she realized that she was, not just that she wasn't being like Helly, but I don't know. It just seemed a little introspective, like maybe she learned something from it. Maybe I'm just hoping she did. I don't know. But she's, says that was mean. That she did that.
So that's also like, I think her backtrack. So a couple things here. That's her backtracking. Like, I think Helena knows Helly wouldn't do that. And now she's trying to cover for it. She's like, oh shit, I slipped up. I did something Helly wouldn't do because apparently she's Helly's kinder. And I think she realized that she'd gone too far and they might be getting onto her. And the reason she says that is not because she actually feels bad. It's because she's covering for what mistake she's made.
I guess I'm just hoping she's starting to feel bad.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but
I don't think so. But I think she was covering and being like, I don't want Mark to realize that I'm not Helly.
That's true.
Let me cover that.
Yeah.
I also thought on my second watch, I just said to you that I thought it was a little forward of Mark S. And I didn't to come to her tent after everyone's gone to sleep like that. Like, don't tell me you don't go into a girl's tent in the middle of the night when everybody's sleeping and don't want it to go where it went.
No, you're totally right about that. But they are also, we talk about sort of like children to some extent. I thought.
But where I'm going with that, Jamie, is that he has attempted integration. And is there a little bit of what Mark Scout might have done coming over to what Mark S does?
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. I just kind of felt like he was trying to make her feel better. He's maybe flirting with her. I don't know that he intended it to go that far. No, you're right. He did go into her tent. I'm not denying that. And so maybe he did. I don't know. They are a lot of times like children. So I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel one way or the other. But
I mean, I don't really think they're childlike. They might be
in that sense. I'm not saying exactly childlike. I mean, they don't have those experiences, I guess.
Yeah, innocence in the sense that like for him, for Mark S, this is the first time Mark S has ever had sex, and presumably if it was really Helly, which it's not, it would be the first time Helly ever had sex, right?
Yeah.
And so they are like, so yes, it's similar to chill, but I wouldn't say that. Let's say you're a grown-up person and you don't have sex till you're 30, which is totally possible, right? That doesn't make you a child. It just makes you inexperienced. And what they are is inexperienced, right?
But I guess my point was, because he is inexperienced, I don't know that was his plan going in. Like, I don't know that he went in there for sex. I think he went in there to make her feel better.
I think he totally was hoping they would have sex. Absolutely.
I guess it's possible. I don't know. But anyway, he sort of flirts with her, says that, she's been helping him, and they start making out. And then they intersperse this with, as they are having sex, well, first they're kissing, but as they're getting ready to have sex, Irving is in the woods, and he's yelling for Milchek and Miss Wang. I don't know if it's just because he wants to leave and he starts to get lost. Yeah. He doesn't know what to do. Now, I did want to mention, because it changes later, if you notice, I mean, this is red, which it was blue before. And yes, I know the fire, the light, and everything is just red to begin with, but I think that it's red because it's symbolizing that it's Helena, not Helly. But also in this scene, Mark has a flash of Gemma because of the reintegration. So I think it's also because his Audi at one point sort of flips over too. So I think that's why it's like that. I also wanted to mention, when this happens, because I noticed this episode. I mean, I guess I noticed it before, but I never really thought about it. You know how they make the noise when they come online, or whatever, however you want to describe it, when the innies wake up?
The elevator ding.
Yeah. Which, and I had said to you earlier, I think that that's more representative of what's happening than an actual elevator. I don't think it necessarily means.
Because we heard it when Irving opened his eyes on that lake. We heard it.
Yes. And we hear it when he gets turned off later.
Yeah.
But my point is, if you listen, when Innie wakes up, there's like a ding. The sound of the Audi waking up is different. Like the elevator off, I don't know what else to call it. Like the wake up is different than the, because if you listen to it when Mark's Audi comes on here, it's that opposite noise that you hear later when Irving gets turned back off, or Irv gets turned back off.
There's a different noise when you go down to the Sever floor and when you come up to the reality
floor.
Right,
basically. Like I said, I don't think it's so literal, the sound, but it's a differing sound. So knowing that now, I don't think they ever had Helly have a sound before, because I remember people saying they thought it wasn't her because there was no elevator sound. Yeah. I'm kind of wondering if at one point there might have been, but it was the opposite sound. I kind of want to go back and listen for that. So, yeah.
Can we talk about how weird this and creepy this sex scene was? Can we talk about that right now, or do you want?
I thought you were going to put up her thing.
I will put up Miss J. But before I would put up Miss J's comment, first of all, I thought it was creepy and weird just in the way it was shot and the way they acted and performed the scene, it just didn't, I don't know, it was just kind of weird. And I didn't, so I never really shipped Mark and Helly. I'm not a shipper. I don't know if people were like, if there are crowd people out there who are like, yes, Mark and Helly finally had sex, or Mark and Helena, or what, or Mark finally had, like, I didn't feel anything good about any part of this. From
Right.
visually, from sonic, audio, visual, like it was just shot weird and awkward and creepy, right? And then we're going to get into the issues that this raises.
Yeah, well, that was my question though. Do you think, I don't know, it was shot creepy so much we got a creepy reaction from it because of what it meant. You know what I mean? I don't know. I didn't notice something creepy from the way it looked. It was more to me creepy because that's not Helly.
It wasn't erotic, it wasn't sexy, it wasn't like, it looked like, I mean, I know it's Mark's first time having sex, but it was just like, okay, Miss J, it was done to make us feel uncomfortable, and it did, like, right? So Jamie, you and I talked quite a little bit today about Mark didn't consent to sleeping with the boss or to sleeping with anyone. He didn't consent to sleeping with the boss because he thought it was Helly. Fair enough. Mark didn't.
Yeah. I think to me that's why it's creepy, because Mark thinks he's having sex with Helly. I mean it. I wouldn't say. I know we discussed it. I don't think it's so much what she did to. I think it's against Helly in the fact that this will hurt Helly, that they had sex.
You think
but
so?
I don't feel like Helly had lack of consent because it wasn't Helly. It was still Helena. So it was just like any other time Helena has sex because she didn't remember it. So consent wise, the Helena part or the Helly part to me doesn't come in. It's more to me, Mark didn't have consent.
Well, yes, he didn't, but or a bunch of people didn't have consent. Like nobody in this operation had consent except Helena, right? But so there's so many things I want to talk about here. Part of this was like, did you ever see like a bad Lifetime movie or like an episode of like Melrose Place where one twin pretends to be the other twin and sleeps with the boyfriend or whatever? Like we've seen that in a bunch of bad movies, right? Like that's kind of what happened. Like the one twin like sleeps with the other. It's not even like, it's not Helly's boyfriend, but it's kind of that like I saw him first kind of thing. Like Helly likes him and Helena sleeps with him and he doesn't know. Like there's that level of creepiness. There's that level where, so she's like betrayed her twin, right?
Yeah, basically. I just want to bring that up, and Mickey says, which is also true. It is kind of uncomfortable because it keeps going to Irving too, though. It was the way they cut it up, I think, was intentional.
There's the part that Miss J mentioned that you say that Mark didn't consent to sleeping with Helena. He thought he was sleeping with Helly. So there's that. But like, there's also the part where, so Mark Scout didn't consent to his body having sex with anyone, right? And so, I mean, there's this whole issue of like,
yeah, did they even know this was a possibility when they signed up to be severed?
Yeah,
it's like they wouldn't expect any to go murder somebody either. It's not. I mean, it may not be stated, but you wouldn't expect it to happen, and you would be upset if you found out it happened.
Who's murdered somebody? You mean like Helly trying to kill herself?
No. I mean, like it's the same idea of the outed would probably be upset if they found out their any committed murder, like it, or were told to commit murder or something. Like it's still that issue of did they agree that their any might have sex?
Well, yeah, because I'm pretty sure that Mark Scout, who is grieving Gemma,
would not want his having sex.
Dream at all of having sex with anyone ever, right? He's devoted to Gemma, and the idea that his body could be having sex that he didn't consent to. And if you're somebody, I don't know if Mark Scout thinks like we saw Helena last season say to Helly, "You're not a person." Like you're just like, she doesn't believe that Helly's a person that has any rights or whatever. But the part of the point of the show is that the innies are fully formed humans that do have rights. And so does Mark have the right to do that with a body that does he have equal rights to that body that Mark Scout does? Like Mark S and Mark's, like who owns that body and gets to decide who they sleep with? Or do they equally decide? It's almost like, also if you see a bad movie where there's like a split personality, which isn't really a thing in psychiatry, but they used to call it split personality, and it's out sleeping with someone. Like the whole thing was like on every single level. And if it happened to Mark, like I'm damn sure that Dylan's wife wouldn't give that kind of right. Like he's married. Like
and they don't know, and it's not even like they know about their history. Like, it's not like Mark would, well, I mean, here, granted, Mark does, but I mean, it's not like if this was Dylan, he would at the beginning would have said, oh, but my Audie's married. Like, they don't even necessarily know that. Yeah. They do now, but I'm saying, like, in general, they don't necessarily know that.
I mean, when I watched this, I really felt like, holy shit, Mark Scout did not give consent for that. And then I had to realize, like, my own bias is that Mark Scout owns this body, but doesn't really Mark S also.
Yeah, I see your point of view. Mark S has a right to do it if that's what he wants to, because if you're saying he doesn't, then is that really fair either?
Isn't that kind of the point of the show, that these are real people that are enslaved in some way and don't have the right to pleasure or love, right? Like that's not cool.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it that way. I more was thinking about the fact, like I said, that it wasn't really consent for Mark S because it wasn't Helly. But I hadn't really thought through. You're right. I mean, on so many levels, this is messed up. I was just going to put that up. Mickey says, I think Mark was also wrong. He integrated, so he technically is a fusion of Mark Scout and Mark S, so he's more aware of what's going on. I don't think he is yet, I would say. And now that's just my own personal opinion. I took this as he is still Mark S here, but in that one moment, he's not Mark S. He's Mark Scout. Like it was like a switch was like his switch was flipped, and he kind of like merged at that moment, I guess, but he didn't stay there. That's how I saw it anyway.
Well, I mean, but it could be subconscious. Like if I had more time in my life, I might go back and rewatch this, looking closely at Mark S and see, do I see parts of Mark Scout creeping through? Just because we only saw that one instant flash of Gemma for a second doesn't mean that it has to be that way, that there's not like characteristics that would be seeping in, right?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't noticed any, but maybe. I mean, yeah, I guess it's kind of like you said before, like it wasn't he more shy, that maybe I don't know. I didn't take it that way, but now the more we talk about it, it's kind of like, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, Mark Saudi's married. Well, was married, is married.
Does he have a girlfriend?
His wife's, maybe they didn't mean Mark, or maybe
no. Doesn't Mark Saudi have a girlfriend? I don't think Mark Scout, the Audi, has it. Did we see him go on a date? No, he's like 100, right?
Yeah, he's grieving his wife at this moment anyway.
Yes, Golden Child. Mark went through the reintegration process. I don't know if it sticks 100% right away, or he had this like sort of therapy and it might take a little.
Yeah. Like, the fact that they jumped from the other episode end to this, I know a lot of people were kind of upset about, because we didn't know what happened with the reintegration.
I mean, he did, like, we saw that scene on the table and he sits up and he's in the red, he's in the suit.
Yeah, and he's kind of back and forth.
It does end as though he is reintegrated, but maybe it takes more than one treatment. Maybe it takes a while to stick. Like Petey was pretty far gone when we met him. I don't know. I mean, that's a really good point, Golden Child. Like when it ended, it did seem like Mark was reintegrated, right?
It did, but I'm kind of was assuming it was more like Petey, like he is going to kind of flash back and forth for a while, which is eventually what led to Petey,
Golden Child, yes, he had that lady come over and they did have sex, right?
I don't know. I guess so. I thought that I was afraid that was later, so I was being careful what I said.
No, he went on a date with that lady.
He did.
And then he was like freaking out.
Yeah,
he's like,
that's right, because that was before she had the baby, right? That was
yeah. He
yeah,
got
okay,
called
yeah,
to go.
that
I
was
think he
before.
didn't have sex, but he had that woman over to his house. He clearly was
Yeah,
going
he
in
did
direct.
date her. Okay. With I'm not going to say that or my thing's going to start talking. Yeah. Okay, you are correct. I was very hesitant to say that because I was afraid that that was from later and I got mixed up when it was. So yes, he did go out on a date slash, well, I don't know that I'd really call it a date. He was asking her about stuff, but it was, I guess, sort of a weird date.
It was a date.
It was a date. He was trying to move on and it
Yeah,
didn't work so well.
He did. And I guess particularly when we saw that episode last season, um, then I really was of the idea that Mark is the owner. I keep doing this, the owner of the bot. Like Mark has more claim. It's Mark's body, and it's severed. And definitely that's the deal that the deal the Audis all made, that Mark Scout made, that Dylan, that Irving made, was that their body would go do this work. Like I think they don't think of.
They don't expect him to go have sex at work.
Definitely not. And they're not maybe total jerks like Helena being like, you are not a person, but because they don't even think of it that way. Like, how much does Mark Scout even think about Mark S? Like, not at all.
I mean, if it was me, I would be thinking like they're part of me more than saying they're not a person. Like they're still part of you. I think Helena's just extra bitchy for lack of what. But yeah, I don't know. As for the reintegration, it seems like
I like Miss J's points here, Jamie, about it. That
that's Mickey, not Miss J, but yeah.
Mickey says, like, we don't know how it plays out. He's reintegrated, he's using both personalities. I don't think Mark S would really have understood the masturbation story.
Well, I guess that's why I thought she had to kind of explain it to them.
But but this is the point, that he and Helena are laughing. The other two aren't really laughing.
He starts laughing too. Well, he starts laughing.
But maybe he's laughing because, like, when people start laughing, you go along with it. I mean, it's kind of a good point that she laughs and he laughs. Like, it's a good theory.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I personally think that it was like Petey. He's seeing flashes and that this was the only flash he had. We won't know more about that till later. Right. You're right. It could be. It is very unclear by the end of the episode exactly what.
So happened. I'm going to put myself in the Mickey camp that maybe it's more of a subtle reintegration, because the doctor does say I've gotten better at it since I did Petey. And we'll just see which way it goes as we watch.
Yeah, I don't know. I had not really thought about that. It's interesting. I'm like picking up a lot more now, like re-talking about it. Like a lot of things I've looked at differently.
It's fun.
Yeah, it is. It is. So at any rate, while they are in there having sex, Irving is laying down on the rock because he's lost. Which I'm not sure laying down in the snow was the smartest idea, but again, I'm not sure he would know that. And they show too, there's like this juxtaposition of Irv and them, and you can definitely see the color shift. But that was why I said about the red. Like maybe you're right. Maybe his Audi is partially there the whole time. I don't know, but it's definitely red. Now, Irving starts having this really screwed up dream. He wakes up. It's like he's at work, I guess, partially because he's in his suit. Whoops, I'm hitting the arrow.
The full Amy.
Yeah. He wakes up. There's all these creepy trees, but he sees the light to the computer. And you see the 4 desks from MDR. And he goes over, and that's, I'm guessing, supposed to be his desk. And he goes over to it. And it is for the Montauk. I think you say Montauk file. So he sits down like he's doing his work. And that is really cool there where
Bert is there.
Yeah, Bert is there and pulls down the divider and then pulls it back up. That was just kind of creepy.
It's kind of symbolizing how they are separated forever.
Yeah. But now he sees, whoa.
And that is Helly's seat. From where he sits, that's Helly's cube.
Oh, that's true. That I hadn't thought of. You're right, it is. But she's typing away. She looks at him. And we know she's, whoa, because we've seen that picture and everything. So he sees the numbers, and I was curious. I wrote them down, those 4 numbers. I don't know if those 4 numbers are important or it's just the 4 numbers they used to make the picture up when they did it. But those are the 4 numbers you keep seeing, 1, 5, 4, 7. And it merges into, I could not get a good shot. I think it was Goldchild had a better picture before, but I assume it's supposed to be Helena's face. And if you look, you can see that the letters are starting to make up the word Egan. So this dream gives him the idea, at least is how I took it, that he sees the word Egan, he sees Helly's face, and it's like, that's what it is, because he knows that she's not her. That's what makes sense, because he really has no reason to know that she's an Egan. He could think that it's her outie, but why would she be able to keep her outie turned on? It would have to be somebody important. And that's where he makes the connection.
I think this is like his subconscious working through it.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And this is also why I think they do not want them having dreams, because they are kind of accessing part of the other part of their brain. That's why I was kind of wondering, is this really a dream? Is it some kind of weird thing? Because there would be no reason they would want him to figure this out. So I think it is truly a dream.
But if you don't want the innies falling asleep, which we've talked about, because in the first season when he falls asleep, if you don't want them falling asleep, why do you take them on an overnight retreat?
Yeah, which I'm wondering, is it just like that was a risk they took? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would say maybe they gave him this hallucination, but what would be the point? What would be
it's not a hallucination, it's a dream.
That's what I'm saying. I think it is really a dream. I don't see otherwise why he would have that. Also, there's an eye, like an all-seeing eye too. And I did not mention it when we first see it, but when we first see this computer, I don't even know if you can see it in this picture. You can't. But there are moths on the screen.
Yeah, there are like bugs flying around.
And I felt like, I don't know, they looked like moss to me, and I looked up what that meant, what moss represented, because I was interested in looking it up and finding out. And moss can be positive and can mean transformation, but can also be about them going towards light, like enlightenment, like he's figuring it out. So I think that it could just be a moth too, but it could represent the fact that he's gaining this knowledge. And there's the eye. And then he's like, what? Sorry, sometimes I like to give them voices. And there's Woe, which is like, she's like, looks like a zombie kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he wakes up. Now, Mark, this is where I said, again, it's blue. Helly's not there. Helena's not there, whatever. It's blue.
By the way, you didn't.
Sorry, what did I skip?
Well, you didn't have a picture of it, so I didn't think of it. Can I just turn back the clock a little bit to their... After they had sex, they were talking. Their post-coital banter. They were talking, and you see Helly, you see Mark, and you only ever saw half of their face. Like they were both laying down, and you only saw like the part of their right.
Just like you are now of him, yeah.
This picture reminded me of it now when he wakes up. But they were talking. You know the part when she's like, we didn't really talk about this, but when she says, "I didn't like who I was outside," and he says, "I don't care. I only care who you are with me." And then they start making out again or whatever. But that whole discussion they had, you only saw half a face, which I really felt was like symbolic of she's got 2 faces. She's lying to him. He's got 2 faces. He's reintegrating. Like, I just felt like it was so symbolic of like, he's only half there. She's like.
So you don't really think that any of that was maybe sort of the way she felt though? Because I don't know, in that scene, I kind of felt like maybe she's saying that she knows she's a horrible person and she doesn't necessarily like being that person, because a lot of it's because of what her father's done. I don't know. I just foresee, and I don't know. I'm like foreseeing like season, 3 or whatever. I could see her falling in love with him and her changing and becoming better because of Helly.
How could she fall in love with him? She watched him on a screen, and then she just really met him.
Did I say it was healthy? I didn't say it was healthy. She's like this freer version of herself. And could she fall in love with him? Could she fall in love with the idea of him even?
We've speculated about it a lot. There's also a lot of speculation that she's not happy being Negan, that she's forced
Yeah, and that's
into
kind of
it.
what I'm saying, like,
We saw one scene where her father was a total jerk.
that doesn't necessarily mean she
I
doesn't
mean,
do it.
my father has been a total jerk to me before. It doesn't mean that I'm miserable and hate my
Yeah,
life.
no,
and,
you're right. You're right.
like,
We're
like
assuming that.
I'm just saying, like, is it true? Maybe, yeah. It's a TV show. They have to use only a few scenes to create something for us. But I just really am not as sympathetic as a lot of other fans are, thinking that she's unhappy being a Negan. She was forced into this. She doesn't have love in her life. She's in love with Mark from, I don't know why, from what became obsessed with him from watching one from videos and then decided to, like, I just don't trust her. And I just think she's not.
I definitely don't trust her now. I just wonder, like I said, maybe not so much could she fall in love with Mark so much as fall in love with the idea that she can be herself around somebody.
Look, I would.
I'm explaining that right. Like she can be free as Helly. It's not so much Mark, it's someone. It's just that she
How
is
could she be free? They're slaves.
not herself per se, but she's, I don't know, like she has to act a certain way as an Egan. Again, this is all conjecture. I'm just saying that for whatever reason, I kind of wonder if they could head in that direction. But if they do, that's probably like season 4 or late season 3 or whatever.
I mean, you have spoken to me before about your feeling, or some people's feeling, that the innie is the true self. And I don't know that I fall into that camp.
That's fair.
And
Yeah,
that,
we've kind of
that
disagreed
they
with
are
that.
freer somehow. I don't really fall into that. I just think, look, I'd be inclined to feel better about her if she had snuck downstairs and nobody knew. But Milchick is fully in on it. The entire Egan organization is fully in on it. Like, if she somehow had snuck down and, like, they didn't know that it was really the Audi, but I'd be more inclined to believe that she was drawn to Mark, trying to experience something.
But do we know she chose to? I got the opinion that they may have made her too. We don't really know.
Yes. But that doesn't mean
that doesn't make it okay. Yeah, you're right.
It doesn't mean that she's in love with Mark if she was made to go down there.
No, and like I said, I don't know that I mean necessarily. I don't think she's in love with him at all now. I'm just saying, is it possible in the future that could be where it would be headed? That she would develop feelings for him. That's why I said I'm talking like far in the future, not right now.
Some people think she's in love with him now.
I don't think that. I think she likes the idea maybe of being able to be, and when I say free in herself, I guess I mean like not, you know how like some people you see these, again, bad.
You mean like a duplicitous lying bitch?
No, but think of like, you were talking earlier about Lifetime movies. You're making me think of like Hallmark movies. You see these movies where like there's like a princess or whatever, and they spend the day as like not that, like they are like a commoner. And I'm kind of looking at it that way. Like, is she not? We've talked before. Is she not experiencing a full life because she's an Egan? And I don't know. That's why I'm just saying, like maybe in the far future, could it be headed that way? I don't know. But let's see. I was going to say Golden Child, I think, is channeling David tonight. The eye is also symbolic of the torch enlightenment. That's why both Mark and Irving carrying the torch this episode.
Oh, yeah.
I said, I think he's channeling David tonight.
And of course, we'd all be different people if we never were paying bills, meaning that the innie doesn't pay the bills. It's the Audi who pays the bill. Like the innie just works and doesn't have to worry about that. Or you mean because she's an Egan and she's rich and doesn't worry about paying the bills?
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I just always, we talk about, I said about your true self. I just sometimes looked at the innies as like the version of you that doesn't have the hangups that your real life has. Because there's like, you don't have the constraints of the outside world. I don't know. And that's, I know you disagree with that, but that was just how
I mean, they have no experiences or freedom or knowledge or like, I just don't think my true self is the self that sits at the computer for 8 hours of the day.
No.
And I don't know that when I was at work,
forced to sit at the computer for 8 hours.
In my cubicle with like, like at least when I sat in a cube all day, then I would go to happy hour with my colleagues at the end. I don't know.
But I guess my idea is the person that they're sending to work, they're choosing to send them to work. That doesn't mean that any would decide to do that if it were up to them. No. I'm just saying it's kind of like the same person you talk about, like nature versus nurture. It's like the person that hasn't had that nature of growing up out in the outside world.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I'm more of the idea that this is really about
people.
coerced labor and co-opting someone else to do, like, trying to outsource your labor to a person that you don't see as a person. You know,
I don't know. I never understood to some extent how they can't see them as part of themselves, though. But maybe that's because I'm looking at it different. I don't know.
They don't see them because they don't see them. They don't see the
Yeah,
part
but
see.
I feel like if it were me, and again, I'm, injecting myself into the plot, but like if it were me, I wouldn't want a part of myself to be suffering, even if I never felt it.
Well, you don't know they're suffering. You don't know they're
No,
suffering.
no. Well, but Helena does. And I guess that's my point. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I look at it as it's still a part of them. And I think we sort of
I mean, I agree with you. It's a part of them, but they're not.
It is a fully forged human, but I feel like that human is still has big connection to the Audi. I feel like they're still innately the same person, I guess, is how I feel that you don't.
Yes, but the Audi, not only does the Audi not know that the Innie is a fully formed human being, I believe the Lumen Corporation has an interest in making not having the Audi think that way. Like having the Audi think that it's basically your body's like a robot that's going to sit at a computer all day and then come back at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's what I said before. Like, getting lots of money for doing work you don't have to remember doing isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's more their experience that is, and they don't know about what's going on, so they don't know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So he wakes up and he's talking to Dylan, and he's like, "Where's Helly?" And Dylan's like, "Irving isn't here either." And they talk to Milchek because he's asking what happened. But see, again, he doesn't sound super concerned. And somebody said, I am sorry, I don't remember who said it. Somebody said earlier about if it wasn't real, why would Helly worry or get that something could happen to her? But I kind of was thinking more kind of like when you're in a dream or something, that if you, like, I look at it like if it isn't real, if it is sort of like a dream or sort of like a simulation, sometimes it's like you can die in real life if you die,
in the simulation. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, was there other things that
I mean, was weird to me also because they're like, Milchek, Kelly's missing, Irving's missing. Like, Lumen has cameras and recorders everywhere on the severed floor, right? And they take them out to this weird retreat in this environment that's not totally controllable. Do you think Milchek really didn't know that Irving never came back and that Mark went into Helly's tent? Like, do you think that Lumen really allowed them to be 100% unsupervised for like 10 hours?
No, but that's also why I said I thought maybe it wasn't real, because that seems like a bad idea, that something could happen. Yeah. And that's why I wondered if it wasn't real. I want to go through, we skipped a couple things. We skipped some of Justin's questions.
Justin always has a lot, so
yeah, I know. I think, okay. What is Hallie's admission to Mark after they have sex? Why does Mark hallucinate Gemma's face? How does Irving end up? Well, that's a lot to unpack. What is Irving's dream about? I guess we sort of talked about that. That isn't so much about why, but what is the significance of Bert appearing in Irving's dream? And how does Irving interpret the pattern in his dream? What happens when he confronts Helly? I mean, I think he's still thinking about Bert. I don't know that that's a deep answer other than he's still thinking about Bert.
I mean, he's still thinking about Bert and that whole thing with the thing going down and up, like being separated from Bert. I mean, I do think his accusation against Mark, like you're making goo-goo eyes at her, like
he's a little jealous, maybe.
Well,
or a little sad that he can't be with the person he cares about.
Or, I mean, maybe like he and Bert were in love, and maybe he sees Mark's
is more of an infatuation, or also maybe he just doesn't want Mark to get hurt though either. Maybe he's kind of like, I don't want him to go through what I went through, and if this isn't really Helly, I don't want him to suffer. There's also that possibility.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe he's like, look, maybe he's like, oh, look what happened to me. It was terrible. Like, I don't want my friend to go through that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how he interprets that face shape pattern in his dream. I don't. I mean, I think it was all. I do think it was all him working it out with Helly.
Yeah, I think it was sort of subconscious figuring it out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. See, some of these are more like what happens. They're not.
Yeah, we don't. We can just click. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we're getting to some of that with the drowning, but why does he yell to Milchick? Yeah, I think part of it
is to out Helly.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to kill Helly. He wants to make Helly come back. And I mean he's smart enough to know you don't drown somebody all the way or they might die. So make sure Milchick's here so at least I don't have to kill her.
I think you say make Helly come back. I think he really sees it as rescuing Helly.
Yeah.
When the Audi's around, the Innie doesn't exist, right? So I think he's trying to rescue her. And I think he's shouting for Milchick because he knows he can do it. I think it's in a sense of taking Helena hostage to trade her for Helly, right?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. But I also don't think he wants to have to go so far to actually kill her either, because he doesn't want to have Helly.
No, he doesn't want to.
He has to have him there to watch.
I think he knows he doesn't have to. He knows she's an Negan. He knows they're not going to let her do it. He's bluffing. And they can't afford to call. They can't afford to call his bluff.
Right, but I'm saying if Milchick isn't there to know about it, then he maybe wouldn't stop him. So I'm saying
Milchick's the only person who can do it. Milchick's the only authority person who can turn her back. That's why it's calling for Milchick. He's the operative.
He's doing it in front of him for that purpose.
Well, he has to do it for him. He's the only. Yeah. It's right. It's like. Yeah. He's making a demand of the hostage negotiator, which is Milchick.
Yeah. So let's see. So they go look for them. Meanwhile, Helly comes out and he comes up behind her. So
wait, go back. Why do you guys think Helly was at the pool? Why did she get out of bed and go to this pool and this waterfall in the first place? Why was she there?
And see, that's where I kind of question if she's sort of thinking about her life. It's almost to me contemplative, she's looking at the beauty of this place and maybe thinking about Helly, thinking about the way she's treated her. That's why I said, I don't know. I feel like maybe some of it rubbed off. I don't know that enough of it rubbed off, but
I mean, it's a place that she previously mocked, right? She had mocked the whole story of the fourth appendix.
Yeah, so maybe she's paying homage to
it. And yet now she's there. I don't know I don't have an answer why she went there.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought she was probably thinking of what had happened, thinking about her life, not anything in particular, but maybe feeling bad for what she did. Maybe not. But she's watching the waterfall. He comes up behind her and asks what she's doing and says he almost froze to death. And that's when he says, "You were cruel. Helly was never cruel. And if you're not her, then who are you? Who would have the power to send their Audi to the severed floor?" And that's kind of why he made that connection. And I don't know, when she says she's sorry, I guess that was my point. I wondered if maybe a small part of her was, but maybe not. I don't know. I'm not sure. Sometimes I feel like she is, other times I feel like she isn't. That's also a possibility. Yeah, maybe seeing this waterfall and everything, maybe they usually don't travel there, and it is kind of this important story, even if she's making fun of it to them. But I don't know. I guess it can't go both ways. Either the story was made up or the story wasn't made up.
Yeah.
So it depends whether the story was real. But she tries to convince him that it's her, and he doesn't believe her.
It's kind of interesting that it's only Irving. Helena's story was preposterous. When she's asked, originally and repeatedly, like, what did you experience when you on the OTR? And she's like, oh, I ran into this guy. He looked like a gardener. It's kind of amateurish, the story she made. Like, why? Who would believe? Like, and Irving pokes holes in it. Oh, a gardener
over and over again.
Flashlight wearing, right? Like, why?
Is it that they're too trusting, or is it that they're trying not to force her to tell them? Like, I think Mark maybe doesn't believe it, but he's kind of like, I trust her, and if she doesn't want to tell me because it's something that hurts her, I'm not going to make her.
I trust her, or I'm hot for her, and so I'm not going to
challenge. Both. But or it could just be they're too naive. I know some people think maybe Irving is reintegrating. I mean, we do have the fact that Irving is somehow connecting his innie with his outie in the sense that, like, he made these paintings as an outie.
Yes.
And he's keeping himself, we think, keeping himself up at night so he will dream, so he sees the whatever, the testing floor or whatever it is, the export hall.
Okay, but that's neither here nor there in terms of
no, but I'm saying, like, maybe
is preposterous, right?
Right. But you were saying, why is he the only one that believes him? I'm saying, like, I think maybe he's more in touch with both sides. So
but
maybe
that doesn't make her story more or less believable if you're in touch with both sides. Like, it's a preposterous story. It was night. It was very dark at night. I saw a gardener, and Irving repeats, like, a night gardener. What does he do at night? What was he wearing? Did he have a flashlight? Like, his questions are all legitimate questions. She never has an answer. Mark, whatever. Mark is hot for her, so he doesn't want to hear it. Dylan, like, why doesn't Dylan want to hear it? Like, why do they not, like, and also, why didn't Helly have a better story? Like, if Helena's going to go in, if everybody's in on it, and she's going in as Helly undercover, like, why did they not prepare a better story for, like, why was she so unprepared that she blurted out this stupid story?
Other than for the audience's benefit, I don't know.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, they wanted us to think it had holes in the story. I mean, I don't know, because they make it sound like they thought people wouldn't suspect it was her, but you're right, that story is so dumb. Like, is it that they really just wanted clues for us? I don't know. I really don't. Or maybe it's because she so much thinks they're not people that they're too dumb to question it. But maybe it's showing that for the most part they kind of are. I know it's something that doesn't make tons of sense. I took it that, like, they're not forcing it out of her because they know it's something that upsets her. But why do they not force it? I don't know. I'm not a writer. That's a good question. Or not
be like, whatever. If you don't want to tell us, fine, but don't tell us the stupid lie.
Yeah, and he's kind of like, no, I need to know why. And he won't let it go.
She's lying. Yeah.
Yeah. And at any rate, he's pulling her. I'm just seeing the footprints in snow and thinking about what you said. So as they're running, trying to get her, he's pulling her along, and he's like, he says, she's an outie. She was an outie the whole time. And they're like, stop. And they don't, now I had said before, that, somebody had noticed it. I wasn't the one that noticed it, but that when they had the video at MDR, that with the bobbing for apples and stuff, that people
bobbing for pineapple
theorized that, like, that was representing this that they seen in the trailer.
Oh, okay. Like it was foreshadowing this, yeah.
So was it? It definitely could have been, but I don't know. But he's like, turn her, give her back. He's like, give us Helly back, turn her back on, whatever he says. And he keeps drowning her. And finally, she's like, Seth, do it. And I love how he's just, like, really sarcastic. Yeah, Seth, do it.
Yeah.
He's clearly been proven. And this is where he says to, I assume, Miss Wang, but maybe not. I don't know.
I don't think it's Miss Wang.
I don't know. I just kind of assumed. He said, she's a mole. I'm going to kill her. She's an Egan. Turn her back. And he says to remove the glass globe block. And then we have, I was going to say, his question about what is the block that he requests for her. Now, we talked about this earlier. I think that if they were really outside in a full open environment, she would already be Helena. they would have to be turned on as severed individuals,
which is the OTR,
which is the OTC. But yeah,
OTC. Yeah.
So it would, to me, it would have made more sense if they're like, turn on the OTC, wake her up. But since they didn't, this place, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not real. It could just be this area is like got some kind of radio frequency or something that makes it like the severed floor. But at any rate, the whole place is severed. Turns this on and it blocks the severing, I guess, is the way. It's like the opposite of the OTC, basically, is what it is, how I look at it.
Which makes you think they're in a lumen underground, in a lumen controlled space, because it would be the OTC. It would not like the glass. If you're in the outie world and you wake up your innie, we know that's,
and it would just be they all had the OTC protocol on except for her.
Yes.
Yeah. It doesn't. It's the opposite, which makes me think that this is either not outdoors, it's a simulation, or it's just some kind of cordoned off area. But either way, it is under their control, like a holodeck.
Maybe they're on a holodeck, right? Maybe. Because it feels like, so when Helena goes down to the severed floor and they don't activate Heli, like, to me, okay, that could be the Glasgow block, right? But we know that when they come up into the real world, to the outie world, that's called the OTC, when you activate the innie. So it's a totally new thing that raises a ton of questions about where they are.
Yeah, you're right, though. Probably when they take her down to the severed floor, they probably have the Glasgow block on. Up until this point, they've had it on. That would be my guess.
Which means they're not on the severed floor,
remove the block.
Which makes me think they're definitely in a severed environment. And wherever it is, Lumen has whatever kind of technologies in effect to have the innies activated, right? Like where are they? They're not out in some.
Yeah, well, it's just like at the end, he tells Irving to go into the forest. So whatever it is, that boundary doesn't extend all the way into the woods.
Yes, and yet they've walked really far, right? They came from the lake, up a cliff.
So it has to be a certain
they've walked really far.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're totally right. It's some kind of, like I said, are they really outside? I don't know. They could be, but it has to be that the area is made to be like the severed floor.
I mean, in Star Trek, when you're on the holodeck, which is like a relatively small space, you can actually like walk really far and do a lot. Like, right, the holodeck is like a.
I was gonna say I don't know. You would know that more than I would.
It's like a room on the Enterprise. It's not unlimited.
It's like in first person shooter, right? In X-Files when they go.
Yeah.
For anybody who knows what I'm talking about.
And then there's all this like stuff going on in different locations and whatever. But yeah, it raised all these questions about like the Glasgow block is like, it's a new thing. And like, where are they? Like, why? Like, you're absolutely right. Like they are in like, it should be the OTC. The innies should be activated if they're really out in a,
Right. Yeah. But they're not. So, yeah, this was from before. I think we skipped it. Akira and Dieter are actually the same person. Maybe it's two different personalities. I thought it was supposed to represent two different sides of him, not necessarily like a completely different personality, but like his emotional side. But that was just that's my own interpretation. That's not.
Yeah.
Okay. The proof was when they all arrived and Helena said she didn't know where she arrived from. Well, I think she lied.
But that's the proof. That's the proof that it was Helena, not Heli, I think is what Golden Child is going back to. When that comment was made, we were talking about that. When I said
she literally,
When I said the proof for me was the cruelty to Irv.
That was when he knew. Okay.
Golden Child saw that proof earlier when she said, I don't know where it came from.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see what you mean. Some of these I think we talked about. They were just still marked. Let's see.
I'm just getting some ice
out. Somebody LD agrees with me, but I don't know what this is a reference to, but yay. They agree with me. So I'm not sure. We've moved. We're a little past that. Sorry. was from a few minutes ago. Probably about the block, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And Miss J saying tracking Zoom while she's underwater is an awesome shot. It is a good, well, the whole episode shot really well. But yeah, showing her as she's drowning is really good too. So let me get back here. I am going to.
Sorry, I was getting ice out of my ice maker. I had to put.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking that I'm gonna in a minute get up and walk because I've been sitting in the same position for over 2 hours now. So he's like, I'm sorry. He tells her he's sorry, and she's like, what's happening? And then Mark runs down to save her. Yeah, I
love that when he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like you just knew, like Irv was doing what he wanted Helly back. It really was what's best for Helly. It was like an act of love, an act of friendship. Maybe it's what I should say. That he did, it really wasn't. In the end, it wasn't about like sticking it to Milchick or part of his.
No.
It was about friendship. It was bringing your friend back to life, basically.
Basically, yeah. But Milchick, there's a really, really pretty shot of that.
Oh yeah,
that's beautiful. I wonder, like, if that whole area is real or some of that was digitally added.
Well, they talked about it. I mean, if you watch the behind the scenes, they talked about it being a real park they went to, and they really shot all that outdoors. And
right, I mean, some of it could be digitally, altered. And Dylan, I love too. Dylan's like, I'm sorry. Like, he's like, I should have believed you. So yeah, he feels bad that he didn't, and that's where he says, it's okay. Just hang in there. And you said to me when he said that, and I've seen some other people now said that too, that when he tells Dylan to hang in there, that maybe that's referencing that poster.
Not just referencing the poster, and the poster is of Dylan, like when he had his arms outstretched to like do the OTC protocol, and he was like, right. So could it mean like he's just referencing that, like, remember when you did this awesome thing? Remember the rebellion, like whatever. But what I said to you was like, I wonder if Irving could have left a clue written on the back of the poster, or if he's hidden something there, or there's more to it than just like keep the faith kind of statement.
Yeah, I think there definitely could be. I think that's really smart. But anyway, Dylan feels bad. And I feel like Irving's not sad. Like Irving fulfilled his purpose. He's happy. He's satisfied. He didn't want to live anyway without Bert. And he's like, I saved my friend. And that's why he's kind of, I don't want to say exactly smart. I love this picture. They're kind of standoff there. Because he does say to Irving, he says that he threatened collegial murder in the pond of Woe's Hollow. There's no penalty, but immediate and permanent dismissal. So they're going to fire him, i.e. kill his innie.
And he says, like, we're going to erase any, like, records about your HR files to be erased. We're erasing every record of you. It'll be like you never walked the earth, right? It's like not just, it's so mean because it's not just we're retiring you or we're killing you. It's like, we're going to make sure no one remembers you or ever knew you existed, which honestly is like when I think about fear of death, like for me, a lot, like that's tied up with like no one will ever know that you were here.
Yeah.
That's like, except they can't make Mark and Helly and Dylan forget him, right?
Yeah, as far as we know. In this show, I never know. But yeah, as far as we know, they can't make them forget. And it will be like with PD. I'm sure they won't want to forget. But he says any personal and professional interactions and personal relations will be purged and destroyed. And then he says, may Kier's mercy follow you into the eternal dark. I thought that was kind of interesting. They call him that. Let's see. Oh, though that's a good point. He was paying Irving back for what he said to him at Bert's retirement party.
What did he say?
He said that Bert, whenever, kind of that whole thing about Bert said he didn't really remember any of them. And Irving got mad at that and was like saying that he wouldn't remember them when he was gone or something to that effect. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And All City was saying that was in reference to Helly, obviously, that
He was.
Bert was kind of there. He was. So he's gonna fire him, and he tells him go out in the woods. See there, he's kind of got a little smile, a little smirk, and tells Dylan to hang in there.
This is where he says, turn your back, turn around. And Irving just refuses. He's not going to turn around.
Yeah, he says, turn around, quit talking. You're not authorized to converse with them. I'm surprised he listened as much as he did, because I'm thinking, like, what benefit is it to him to listen to you? Like, you have nothing over him now. You're going to kill him. You just said, I'm going to kill you. Now you need to do what I say. Like, I'm surprised he even left and wasn't like, fuck that, you know?
Yeah.
But he says to go into that's where he says, go into the woods or whatever, the forest. Turn around. Yeah, walk into the forest. And Dylan's yelling to leave him alone. And then he, that's when they have that out sound, whatever you want to call it, of him turning back into Irving. So that's where I'm saying, like, there must be like well, you know what? There isn't. I said there must be a boundary, but come to think of it, he calls somebody on the radio again, doesn't he? And says, do it now. I think he says, do it now. I feel like I had in my notes somewhere, and I have it. I don't know, somewhere. He said, do it now. I thought, but maybe I'm wrong. Either way,
maybe he says, yeah.
I have written in there now. After he says, follow you into the eternal dark, and then he says now, and then I guess he will go.
Yeah, I guess they would just activate. But here's the thing: like, you're gonna activate the Audi in the middle of the woods, like, so it's not. We don't really know.
They must know then, because why would he risk? If they didn't know, like you said, and they kidnapped him, why wouldn't they wait to turn him back on until they were out of there? Turn him back off, whatever.
I guess Irving got turned on when he was standing on the ice, right? So I guess Irving was like, yes, I will stand here in the middle of this lake and you go away. And then I'll just stand here until you flip the switch and turn on the OTC. And I'm like, that makes not a lot of sense to me. And then I guess they're going to like march Irving to the woods and flip the switch. And then the Audi just wakes up in the snow. Like that's kind of weird to me, right? That the Audis participate in that.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he wouldn't wait other than for dramatic purposes.
Right? Because wouldn't that alarm the Audi and raise questions as to what the hell goes on all day with my body? Right?
Well, but then again, doesn't matter. He's firing him. They're probably having their contract. If something happens and they're fired, that's it. They can't ask questions.
I know, but you can have whatever you want in a contract, but it doesn't stop people from doing stuff, right? Especially on a TV show.
No, you're right. I'm just saying that it might be like they'd wake him up wherever, but I would think it would make more sense to wait till he gets out of the woods.
Yes, it seems like for this ultra secretive company, like to have the Audi marched out into a lake and stand there, and then we're all going to go away, and once we're 500 yards away from you, we'll flip the switch and you'll be turned on into your innie. It just, like, to me, the whole thing like just doesn't make any sense.
But that's why I do think the Audis knew they were there. But yeah, I don't know. But they have that sound, and and that's back to the beginning.
And then he's like falling backwards, and that's it. Yeah.
Kind of. I think that's just representative. He's waking up or whatever. Yeah. So that is it. We've reached the end. Wow, we had a short one tonight. If anybody has anything else to add, you can always call in or tell us, and we'll talk about it. What else? Do we have anything else? Because
there's a bunch of comments that we didn't cover, but I don't think we need to necessarily. I mean, Justin's comments are almost like a guide, like a study guide. A lot of them. That we've covered quite a lot of it.
All City was saying something with Dieter's corpse. I don't know if he meant the seal or what. Yeah, that's what I was seeing. Did we miss something?
I'm just looking through this a little bit and see what we
can. Just kind of scanning through to see if we found anything.
So Justin has a bunch of comments here. We talked about why Irving starts yelling for Milchick. Why does Irving try to prove Helly's a mole? But how does Milchick react when he arrives at Woe's Hollow? So Milkshake. So I guess we talked about this a little bit, but like, how is it that Milkshake like got surprised in this way? Like, how is it that they let everyone to their own devices for the whole night, and then Milkshake shows up and he's like, I mean, he does seem to be legitimately alarmed that. So actually, he doesn't seem that alarmed when Helly and Irving are missing. Like, he doesn't seem to really react that.
But I also don't think he thought Irving would actually. I'm moving around. If I'm too far from the mic, tell me. I need to stretch. I don't think he thought that he would actually do anything, though.
Well, fair, yeah. I mean, to be fair, he has underestimated them at every turn, right? Like Milkshake. I mean, I think that Milkshake is he's. I think Mrs. Cobell was far more tuned into the dangers and to what these people might do, and I think Milkshake has a less
definitely their attitude. He just doesn't. I don't. That's not.
I don't think that. I think he doesn't give them credit, or he constantly underestimates them, or he. I mean, right, in a way that Mrs. Cobell was more. She never got surprised because she was paying more attention, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair. That's why she was a better floor manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
Golden Child made a point that we didn't catch at the time. Didn't Prometheus carry the torch, and didn't he represent regeneration? Yeah, Prometheus is in Greek mythology, he stole fire from the gods, right? And I think he got a really bad punishment for it, maybe, right? I gotta remember what happens to Prometheus. And I will Google him very quickly, or probably Golden Child could tell us. Prometheus. No, not the terrible 2012 film. Thank you, Google, very much. Prometheus he's the god of fire and a champion of humanity. He was known for tricking his cousin Zeus to give fire to humans. Yeah. And in punishment, he was chained to a rock. And an eagle, remember an eagle came every single day and like pecked at his liver and ate part of it. And then I guess maybe he would, and then
maybe the seal represents Prometheus. Seal's body. But I don't know if he represented regeneration. Maybe not. I don't know.
I really don't like AI, but since we don't have any
time, I know their summaries is some.
AI says, Prometheus represents the quest for scientific knowledge and the risk of overreaching or unintended consequences. So we did see a lot of fire in this episode, and the torches. I mean, I kind of like it. Those kind of things are. I think we've covered a lot of the comments that we have here in the.
That's what it's looking. We're like an hour less than we were last week. That's what. But you know what? This episode was like more. Like external, if that makes sense. Like it was more like something happened more so than. Having it maybe as much meaning. Either that, or we're just getting better at going through it in order. One or the other.
Yeah.
That's all about them having sex.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, as we're maybe kind of wrapping up a little bit, All City kind of sums up what we were saying earlier, that shit was jarring and was distracting from the episode on first watch. Like we talked about that. I didn't like it as much at first watch, but second watch it was dope.
He said third watch was
I definitely needed a second watch to appreciate it a little better. Like there was a lot that was distracting. There was a lot that was. There were times I was like, this is really slow. What's with these like artistic sweeping shots of people walking through the snow? That's not this show, right? And they were beautiful, and I appreciate them. But I was like, what is going on here? I did take a second watch, maybe I don't always watch it twice. and I watched it twice. I watched it Friday night and again Saturday morning, right? I guess everybody did. It comes out on Friday. We've all watched it twice in 24 hours.
Yeah. I was going to say, I've watched it at least 4 times. Because I watched it before. I watched it when I did the notes for this. And then I watched it at the watch party. And then I watched it at this watch party. So yeah, I've seen it 4 times at least. I've seen probably more than that, 3 times in the last few days. So
yeah. Miss J is glad something big like this happened early on, right at the end of the season. Yeah.
yeah, they're not making us wait for answers, which is good.
Well, but it's both. It's like a big answer, but also like a few more questions maybe popped up in this, right? Like, like what the hell? Where the hell were they, and what the hell was going on? Kind of level questions.
Yeah.
And so, Jamie, you've seen the rest of the season, right? I don't. Yeah. You can't say anything here, but like, do you think Irving's really gone out of the show?
I was going to say that I definitely can't answer one way or the other.
But, or I mean, we do have Audi.
Did I think that at this point? I didn't think they'd completely take him out of the show at this point. No. Well, I mean, I can't tell you what happens, but I think the one thing that happens if you've seen the trailer, some of it you might already have an inkling to. But I don't want to spoil anything. But there's some hints in the trailer.
I mean, we have not seen a lot of Irving's Audi. We see mostly Mark's Audi, right? We see very little of the other two, but I mean, just because any Irving has been retired or killed or whatever doesn't mean we might not see Audi Irving. There have been some comments in the chat and in other places, some general feelings that Irving is reintegrating. Whether he's seeking treatment, which he could be, we see very little of him. It could turn out that Dr. Ragabi is treating him also. It could be that he's just kind of naturally reintegrating. But there does seem to be some indications that he's reintegrating, right? I mean, the notebook, the paintings, all of that, right?
Yeah, he's somehow connecting to his Audi side. Can't we play the trailer? No, because if we do, YouTube will block the video. They'll block this whole live stream if we do that.
Really?
Yeah, it'll block it if you play more than like whatever it is, 10 seconds.
Even if you play from a separate window, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, I could play it, but if it picks up the video or the sound, it'll block it. Let me see if somebody has outright said it, and then we can. See, though, I don't know. Some people though don't want any spoilers, so I kind of hate to even.
Is a trailer
talk about it because
play it in Discord. You can play it in Discord.
Oh yeah, we can play it later in Discord, but like we can't play the audio in where this will hear it because if YouTube hears the audio, it will block.
I mean, personally, I do not consider a trailer a spoiler because it's created by the marketing department and put out there far in advance of the show. But I get why some people avoid them and don't want to watch it.
I'm trying to see if there's a screen capture of what I'm thinking, and then
I think Jimmy, you're implying that Turturro is seen after this episode in the trailer, and he's not off the show.
No, not necessarily, because you wouldn't know where the clips. Well, I guess maybe there is a clip of him. I don't know if it shows him or not after. I'd have to think about it. That wasn't what I was referring to.
I mean, he certainly is the biggest star in the show.
He's one of the biggest stars. Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that.
He's the biggest star in the show, really.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was trying to see and make sure people have talked about it. I don't see a picture, but well, if people want to talk, I just don't want anybody to be mad and be like, "Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it?" Well, and yes, we can play it after in Discord if you want. But like I said, I don't want. Right. What will happen? Quick explanation. What will happen is when I go to upload this video, it will not let me upload this live stream. It'll block, and I'll have to cut out that part of the video. That's why I don't want to do it, because it's a pain in the ass to have to cut up the video. But yes, we can watch it after if you want Discord.
All right.
Okay. So if you don't want to know, like, mute your ears for like the next 30 seconds. It does show in the trailer that it appears that to have his watermelon head. That is in the trailer.
What? His watermelon head?
Watermelon head. That's what I was referring to.
What's a watermelon
head? Like, you know how Bert had like the head at a melon? There's like an
oh, yeah. At his retirement, they made a head out of
yeah,
a
yeah. So yeah, that doesn't really tell you anything, but it's in the
All
trailer.
right.
I just want to be
So,
careful.
well, that's interesting because Milchick said there will be no party. I forget the words he used, but he's like, "You're out of here."
He said that. You're right.
He says there's not going to be any like memorial, and so maybe there's going to be a memorial. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that Mark made a big deal when he first got down there that his friends weren't around and demanded them back. I don't know if he will demand to have Irving back when they get down to the severed floor again next week's episode, maybe. And if Mark's in a position to make that demand.
Yeah.
We don't know where Mark Head is at. So, Mark, we didn't really get a huge reaction to this the revelation that it's been Helena all along, and he didn't have sex with Helly. And he says to her, I don't care who you were upstairs. I don't care who you were outside. I only care who you are with me. And that,
yeah, but she's Helena right now, so yeah,
I think he's going to care when he realizes we had sex.
I think it's fair to say there's going to be some fallout from that, and there will be maybe some reaction, obviously, to what happened to Irving. I'm not saying Irving's in it or not in it, but I agree with what you said. Like it's kind of unlikely. I thought at this point that he would be completely gone. Will any Bert be or any Irving be gone? I don't know.
Well,
but
and like, can he separate Helena from Helly, right? And
yes, I think that would be what they're going to have to discuss. And how I think that they need to talk about it and how they both feel about it. And yeah, I think that's
she didn't experience it.
She didn't experience it, but I'm sure she's not going to be happy when she finds out. I think it's fair to say that she would not be happy to find out that Helena had sex with him before she did.
Okay, so in the Lifetime movie, the twin is always mad that the husband didn't recognize it wasn't her, right? Like, so the evil twin comes in, has sex with the husband, and then the good twin finds out, and she's always mad that the husband couldn't tell them apart. Like, how could you not know it was me? How could you not know it was me? Like, right? That's like, I could see, okay, we're not watching a Lifetime movie, but I could see her feeling that way. Like, how did you not know it was me? You, right?
Yeah, I could see her feeling that way, and I could see, like we said, Mark not being happy that he was lied to. So they'll have to deal with that.
Well, and also not like, how come he didn't know it was her? Like he was just lied to, but that he also didn't know. And I think that he can. He says, I don't care who you are, but I think he does care.
He does care. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think he does care.
I think it's gonna be really hard to separate them.
Yeah.
So, and also like, yeah, it's gonna be really hard to separate them.
Yeah, so I guess whether he and she can reconcile with what happened quickly or not is yet to be determined, I guess. And obviously, I think the other thing, if we're kind of talking about what's going to happen, I think it's obvious that they're going to have to continue explaining or showing or whatever, something to do with the reintegration, because they ended the episode on that. And then it just went into this, which I know a lot of people were upset about, that it started out in a completely different place than the last episode ended. So I think that, it's fair to say there's going to be something to do with the reintegration.
Well, I mean, so Mark also didn't deal at all with the part, like, at the moment that he's like he's having sex with like Helly. He's not just kissing her. He's like they're in the middle of it, and he flashes to Gemma, right?
Yeah, and what does that do to Mark is another question.
Mark S, right? Mark S, not Mark Scout. Mark S. We never saw him like, he's just like, oh wait, and like shakes it off.
Yeah, because I would assume, going by like Petey, and because of like what we've said before, some people thought that some people seem to think that reintegration means he can choose which side. I mean, by definition, reintegration is putting two together.
Yeah,
that's what that means. Yeah, uniting two.
Yeah.
I would say, going by what we've seen of Petey and the fact that he's trying to reintegrate, I would think that he would like remember that. I don't think it's like that it just had happened and then he would forget it. I wouldn't think.
I mean,
Uh,
and so Marcus has never had sex before, right? I keep
Right.
coming back to this, but the idea that you would be having sex with one partner and like see a different person,
yeah, that would be freaky too.
I mean, so it's a thing that we don't need to get into the details of people have, but people do sometimes fantasize when they're having sex about other people, right?
Yeah, but I don't think that's what that was.
Yeah, I'm saying that's not that's not what that was, but it's also not a thing that Mark S should be aware of or think about. Like, I think it should be far more shocking to him that I'm having sex with Helly and I saw Miss Casey. Like, he hasn't like I just wonder if we're gonna see him think about that, ruminate on that, wonder why that happened, like, right? And also he's aware that Miss Casey is Zoudy's wife, and so should like he just didn't really like. I get it that he had sex for the first time and he was all into it, and he was like then he was like sleeping next to Helly. I get maybe not
maybe freaked
dwelling
out
on it right then, but in the harsh light of day, like the next day, he should be thinking about that. I like to see him.
Yeah, I definitely think he should be. I would agree with that.
I'd like to see what happens when he starts to process that, I guess is what I'm saying. Because it can't go unprocessed, right?
Yeah. And Golden Child's talk about how we were talking before about common knowledge and what do they remember and what don't they remember. And
they know about
it, kind of accepted.
Particularly sex is making me think of that comment that Gwen said.
Actually, why don't we know they still know how to drive a car? And Innie's never been in a car. So we don't actually know that.
They know about wind, but they don't know what wind feels like.
Yeah, so I don't know if they would know how to drive or not. They probably would.
They probably know now. They've just never done it before. They know. I think they know all about every aspect of sex and the birds and the bees and how it's done and all that, but have never had that feeling of right. I actually thought that scene was a little bit muted for a person in their first experience.
Well, that's the other thing. You say that, I kind of was surprised they didn't have them in awe seeing the outside. Because yes, you're right, they seen Kira's house and the grass, but like we're kind of in awe talking about this place that we see on the screen, and they're just like, oh, we're out here where there's ice and snow and trees, and like they don't even.
Yes, Irving drove as an Innie. He drove over to Bert's house and saw him through the window, right?
Oh wait, yeah, he did. Did he know how to? Yeah, I guess he did know how to drive. You're right.
It's like muscle memory. God, how many times do I drive my car and I zone out and 10 miles have gone? I don't even know what I just did, right?
Yeah, you would think they wouldn't know directions, though. He had a map.
Well, I mean, why not? I mean,
that's just a nitpick. I'm just.
They have total knowledge. They don't have like the emotional, the experience of it, right? Like it's like I can read everything in a book about how to fly a plane, but the first moment I get in a plane, I'm going to be like, holy shit, right?
Yeah.
Or there are many skills you could learn. Like, I don't know, it's like reading an entire recipe, but not tasting the food.
Yeah, that's true.
I think. And I just, so I think you're right. Like they weren't like the Innies, they've never been cold. They've always been inside.
I would assume so. And I would think that they would have. That's why, like, I could understand in a way him being like, we're hungry. We know, but they don't even know what cold is, and they're not surprised. They're not excited. I think Milchek was more excited about being there than they were.
I think you're right. Yeah, no one's like,
a little odd to me. Like, I would have loved to have seen just for like 10 seconds them be like, wow, just because it feels like it was missing to me. I don't know.
They've never been outside a room that was bigger than like, okay,
I think, that's not entirely true though, because Dylan makes a point of saying, I know there was no ceiling, but he did say something about that. So
he said, I knew there was no ceiling, but this is like, he does marvel at the sky a bit. Yeah. And I guess they couldn't just make a whole episode of them being like, wow, it's cold. Wow, there's running water. Wow, there's this. Like, they just couldn't make an episode out of that.
How do you feel about, you just made me think about it when you said running water. How do you feel about Milchek? I might as well shut that image. About Milchek lying about the waterfall.
Oh, we talked.
Yeah, he talked about it. He said
text
that to
messages.
them, it is the highest waterfall they've seen.
It's not even close to the highest
Yeah.
waterfall in the world, right?
No, but to them, it's the highest waterfall. But is it just like another way to lie? Like, what's the point, I guess? In
Yeah,
saying
what's
it?
the point of that lie? Like, this is the tallest waterfall in the world. Like, who,
I'm
like,
not sure who that benefits lying, other than
yeah,
it makes him feel smug.
like, why lie about this pointless
Inconsequential things.
little,
Yeah.
right? Like, the being outdoors is completely awesome, awe-inspiring to them. And like, why we talked about that? Like, why throw in that little kind of nothing seeming lie about like to make the place seem more? And it's like laughably. I mean, it's a pretty small waterfall. It's like not that big.
I think at one point he says a pond, which is pretty much what that is.
I mean, so I knew Angel Falls was the tallest waterfall in the world. I looked it up. It's like
Yeah,
800
that is.
meters high.
I don't even think that's as high as Niagara. I mean, it's not very high.
Way higher. It's Angel Falls is as high as
no. I mean, that one wasn't even as high as like.
Yeah, it wasn't even as high as Niagara. Yeah, it was not really that high.
A little waterfall.
Milton was trying to show. Oh, Milton was trying to show.
Yes, that's a good point. He's like saying, "This is so fantastic. You're so lucky to be here.
We took you to the greatest place ever. That's
a good point. Yeah,
I like it. Yeah,
I do too. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to do anything like this again. I feel like this really backfired. They didn't expect almost get killed.
It backfired on Lumen. Yeah.
Yeah, backfired big time.
This is twice now that Helena has almost been killed, right? So Helly tried to kill herself. And they had to stop it. Mark kind of stopped it. And then did Irving try? We discussed, did Irving try to kill her? Irving threatened to kill her. I think Irving knew they would never, he wouldn't have to go through with it. Irving didn't really intend to kill her, right? Irving.
No. But he could have. I mean,
but he didn't need to. He knew they would give in, right? He called her.
But I mean, technically, he could have made her drown because not knowing what drowning actually is. But again, those are little nitpicks.
I mean, it begs the question, like, why are the Egans allowing her to be in this really increasingly high-risk situation, right?
I think that there's so many high risks just in this area to begin with. That's why I question, is it possible it's a simulation?
This was nothing but risk, this entire... Yeah, I question it also, Jamie. Could it be a simulation, or could it...
I mean, like, if they put them in the middle of a field in summer, I wouldn't think that. But putting them in snow and cold in the middle of the woods and the water in the cold, because
earlier I said to you, well, it is winter, so it's got to be winter. But the innies don't know that it's winter. They've never been outdoors, right? Like, if it's a controlled environment,
why make it winter? Well, I mean, they made it winter because it's winter in real life. I mean, so I don't know that
could have been like outies, free vacation of Florida for. I just need one day to do this outing with my like.
Yeah, for all we know, they could have said that.
I really, in a lot of ways, feel like it has to be a controlled Lumen environment.
That doesn't mean it's not outside, though, to be controlled. It could still really be outside.
Simulation. I'm kind of okay with a simulation.
But just this, not any of the other stuff. I'm talking about just this environment.
I mean, they do actually have a chip in their brain. Like, they literally had an implant put in their brain. So is Lumen capable of...
I don't see why they couldn't just like Matrix download it in and make them think they're there.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like I said, I think of X-Files, a first-person shooter where they do a video game and they're VR and they're in a physical room, which they don't really do that.
Which they experience as
like they're in a real area and they can move around physically, but they see what they see. Like, it could be something like that where they're actually in an environment. Like, maybe there's like a pool or something, and I don't know. And I don't know that we'll get an answer. I'm just, it just seems so risky. And there's so many things this season that I'm not sure I quite get, because there's certain things they've done that seem to be like they're saying, oh, we're doing this to help the innies. But I don't really feel like they are trying to help the innies. But it begs the question, why are they really doing this stuff then, other than to get their control? Because like the whole, like Dylan and his wife, like we are going to assume, I mean, I'm assuming, and I think everybody assumes that is really his wife, is Audie's wife. It seems like it because we've heard her, but like, and seen her outside with Audie Dylan. Like, why do that? I get, yes, it's a perk, it's a way to control him, but it still just seems strange. It's like some of the things they said they were going to do, they did do.
And I don't believe his wife is part of it. Mainly
No,
because I know that Devin is not part of it, right? And I'm pretty sure that Rickon is not part of it in any
I don't think is
knowing sense.
Yeah, Rickon maybe and doesn't know it because he's too dippy to know it. But that's
he's dippy, used maybe, yeah. But I think, Jamie, like, this episode comes down to what you have said, that there's just so much risk. Like, why did Lumen take all this risk? Let's say they're truly outdoors in a big old park and there's some controls, but limited controls. Like, why? What?
Well, he didn't come get Irving at night. That's what like makes me wonder. Like, if it is a real really outside, I agree with you. You would think they would be watching them if it was really outside. And he would have known he wandered away and would have known that he could have died and at least followed him. Because if they're really in the middle of winter in the woods, he could die. And I feel like the fact that he didn't seem to know it, and that when he did find out, he didn't seem that concerned. He wasn't concerned until he started drowning Helena. And let's go to Golden Child saying that a control Lumen virtual environment where you can interact with your surroundings with real consequences. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, there could really be a pool of water there that he's really drowning her in, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's really outside in the forest type of thing, or in the, I don't know. I just, it's things like this. I wonder, are we going to get an answer, or is it just, it's kind of whatever you think it is? And I don't know.
I think ultimately the answer, yes, would cover what extent of control Lumen has over the environment. Yes, that might be a season 4 or season 5 answer, but I think we won't get that answered now. But I think, yeah, how far does Lumen's control extend? And what are they capable of having you experience? Or is it all a genuine experience?
And if it is a genuine experience, why did they agree to this, or did they not agree to it? Those are other questions.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's really, yeah. And the risk to the Audis is what really makes me wonder about this episode. Like, risk they would take to the Audis, because, like, if something bad happened, let's just say they fell off the cliff and broke their leg, and then Dylan goes home to his wife with a broken leg.
Well, then they give him a gift card for the dinner at Pitt's.
Yeah, okay, but really, come on, right? Or
I know.
Mark goes home to Devin with a broken arm. Like, the risk that people from the outside start asking questions and raising up, that's like a major risk, right?
Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of my point. Like I said, I mean, if it's real, Irving could have frozen to death. And the fact that they left them in these tents alone, we think, it doesn't make tons of sense. Now, if it wasn't real, then it wouldn't matter.
Also, not only...
I don't know they have security in the middle of the woods. I mean,
not only was Irving alone, but Irving was shouting and shouting for Mr. Milchick and not getting any response, right? So either he was too far away to be heard, or Milchick was like checked out and not paying attention, or didn't care.
Yeah. They didn't even show where they were, which is a little suspicious. Like, I was honestly kind of surprised there wasn't like a 5th and 6th tent.
Yeah, where did Milchick and Miss Wang sleep? Like, in a different campground that was out of our sight that we never saw, right? Or in a,
No, giving them the illusion of being alone or whatever. I don't know. I mean, it seems less likely there's security cameras in the middle of the forest, which is, I don't know. I more believe it could be not a real place than there being security cameras all over a real forest.
I mean, there's also the part where Helen was an Egan, and she definitely was able to give commands to Milchick. And
so it could be they expected she'd take care of them too.
No, I mean, maybe she wanted privacy because she was hoping to, get it on with Mark.
And that is the other question we do need to talk about. So a lot of people, and I'm not one of them, but I have heard people say that they think the whole reason for that was because Helena, whether it's Helena wants it or somebody wants Helena to have Mark's baby.
No.
I do not want to see that. I do not believe that. I don't think it makes sense.
That's a real fan theory out there.
Yeah, I've heard some people.
What's the reasoning? Why would the Egans want her to be impregnated by Mark?
I don't know. I mean, we know Mark's important, but I think Mark's only important, in my opinion, so far as whatever he's doing and like the connection with Gemma, and if she's part of some experiment or something, and then he needs to finish that file. But I don't think he's important in any other way. Now, I don't know. I'm just saying, but I sure hope they're not going that route. Let's just put it that way.
I don't understand why that storyline would make sense or be important. Like, why would him
here? Yeah, maybe they're trying to make another Egan, maybe trying to make baby Kier. And yeah, they could have artificially done that. Like, they wouldn't actually need to have sex to do that either. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they do have a lot, to be fair. If they would go that route, you could say they're foreshadowing it in the opening credits. I mean, there's tons of babies, but I just don't think that that's the case. I hope not.
If they just want a new generation, Helena's young enough to find a partner and have a baby the old-fashioned way, right? Like, if it's about Mark, yes, they could have. You're right. They could have artificially done that with Mark and found other ways. It doesn't, to me, make sense that it's an end game with a baby unless Mark has like superpowers, which that's not the show we're watching.
No, it's not. So if you think that, well, even if you think that after and you're watching this, even not live, leave in the comments. We want to know why. Yeah, I know some people did, because I heard people. That's why people are thinking that the credits.
Because they see all those babies in the credits.
I remember. I had given people this link. There's an article about the person who made the opening credits, and they were saying that Ben Stiller liked the idea of putting the babies in it. Now, was there a meaning behind it? I don't know. He's just like, put more babies in it. I mean,
those babies.
This is kind of like how I feel about like Ethan and the Man in Yellow. Like, I see, yes, that could be foreshadowing that, and if it happens, I'm going to say, yeah, it was foreshadowed in the opening credits, but I just don't see it. I just really don't see it. Could he be a descendant of Dieter? That, it's definitely because his name is Fern. Okay, explain that. How is Fern related to Dieter? Are they both like the same nationality? I don't know.
His mom's name, Mark's mom's name was Fern.
Yeah, but what's Fern? Dieter?
I don't know, because it's a
Dieter Fern. Okay, no, that's something to do with football. That's not about Fern. There's a Dieter Fern, I guess. It's a football player, so forget I said that because that was a dumb.
I was going to say because Dieter turned into the earth, and
yeah, okay.
And mom's name is Fern, and they're in the credits. I
don't know. Like I said, all I can say is I hope not. Dieter is a tree. You're not wrong, and I said that's where I said yes. I see things that could point to that, but I think that this is one of those cases where people are making their theories fit, or making what they see fit their theories rather than making their theories fit what they see. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so I guess one reason why I don't go down that baby rabbit hole, for me, this show at its core is about the exploitation of labor and indentured labor, enslaved labor, labor that doesn't give consent, trying to get out of labor. Literally, we had a woman sever herself so she wouldn't have labor, like having a baby, right? Like,
yeah, and there's also the idea of what makes you who you really are, too, and that duality of, like we said, is it that's really who you are, or does that have nothing to do with it? Are they two completely different people? I think those are the two. I mean, I think that's an important part of the show, too. Whether you think they're inherently the same people or not, I think that's still a big issue with the show.
Yeah. Whether you think the Innie and the Outie are the same person, they have equal claim on the body. Like, to me, when you have two people and the body is almost like it's not a robot, but there's a level of control that like the Innies gain for those 8 hours, right?
And yes, it is creative, All City. I'll give you that. I just
yeah.
you could be totally right. I mean, it could be right. I'm just saying I don't see it personally. I mean, I have no clue where the series going past season 2, so I'm sure she technically could probably be pregnant in season 4 or something, and we'll find it out, and I'll be like, "Damn, he was right." No, you never know.
I mean, it is kind of great when you see some craziness that I didn't agree with, or didn't see, or didn't understand. That becomes like, oh, that like. I don't want to be like, I'm not disappointed I didn't see that. I'm like, wow, I didn't see that. Wow, good.
Yeah.
Like,
that's why I like that we a lot of times disagree.
Yes.
I think that it's nice to not always think the same thing and get different points of view. I think. But
so I have no idea. There's no Apple doesn't do promos.
It's not his theory. He's letting us know it's not his theory.
Okay. Okay. Never has crazy left field theory. Yeah. Sure, right. The model of rationality.
Well, I know there were some people that thought that, though, because there were a few people the other night that thought that. Mm-hmm. Just wasn't me. That's all I got to say. I don't even know Wall City was there.
Well, I think next week I don't know what's coming up next week, but I think we got to go back to Mark Scout, Audi Mark. It might be time, right? Especially this show likes to drop something and then not give you an answer for a whole week and go back. We still have 6 episodes, 10. There's going to be 10, right? We have 6 more to go.
10 this year. Yeah. I mean, I think that they do good of giving answers. I mean, I can say you do get answers. I mean, there's questions too, but
we did a big answer today.
It doesn't leave you hanging so much.
Yeah, they didn't take
a big answer. I mean, we weren't surprised by the answer, but it was still a big answer. And you know what? The truth is, there'll probably be some. I was thinking about how I bet you're going to get people that are going to say she wasn't Helly the whole time, or wasn't Helena the whole time. Just like how we still have arguments about Tabitha being, or about what's her face being, reincarnated. So,
yeah, what's her face being reincarnated?
No, I was talking about from. I was trying to think of.
I
didn't. It's not Eloise, but I couldn't think of her name. That's why I'm like, what's
Tabitha? The whole, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I told you my names go at the I swear as days go on, my memory gets worse with my age, and I can't even remember characters.
Yeah.
No, that's good. I'll see. It's always good to have ideas. I mean, you never know. This show's weird. It could be anything, right?
And hey, we need jokes also, All City. I would say they're not stupid. They're mostly excellent jokes that we hear from you. Yes. And great comments also. Every person who comes to the chat, thank you so much for talking and chatting with us and giving your ideas, and for liking and subscribing.
Yes, please like and subscribe if you haven't. And again, I'll post the Discord link. If you haven't joined, make sure you do, because we have watch parties a lot. Speaking of tomorrow and I think I got to change the time again, because I think it's still marked. I'll have to look. It might be 10, but we have, I think our From live stream tomorrow, I think is 11. And are from, it's really bad that I can't remember all these, but I got so many going on. It's okay, Michael. You can always stream it later, but thank you for coming. Every comment you made is a factual statement.
Hey, it's Michael.
Yes.
Hi.
Thank you for coming. Sorry that you're getting the tail end here. Yeah. But tomorrow at 10, we have the From watch party in Discord. And then at 11 is our From live stream with me, Julie, and Scarlett. And then Tuesday, me and Karen and AJ are back with Fandom Access, where we're going to be talking about more Paradise and I'm not sure, some other stuff, whatever's been on for the week. And then also Tuesday, although it's not live, we're going to be talking to Sydney Cole Alexander, who plays Natalie on Severance. Yay! So if you have questions, I should have announced this at the beginning. If you have questions for her, you can either post them in Discord. I made a channel for it specifically, or post them on X. I have my little banner thing here somewhere.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not going to be a live interview, but if you send us questions, we'll get as many as we can, right?
Yep, and we have enough time. We should get through a lot of them. So yeah, please send questions before Tuesday. We'll ask her, and then that we will be premiering sometime next week. We're going to discuss exactly when we're going to do a live premiere at some point. during the week. And yeah, and we might be getting more guests, hopefully live. We're trying to set stuff up.
Yeah, it's our first interview.
Yeah, it's our first Severance interview. Yeah.
So we're going to ask so many good questions that the whole crew and cast is going to line up to be with us.
Yes. And then starting next Sunday, we have, this is obviously not tomorrow, but starting next Sunday, we have at 8:00, we are going to be having the Yellow Jackets watch party for season 3, followed by at 10:30. We have all the schedule that I'm trying to remember off the top of my head and getting confused is all in Discord. We have the live stream. Actually, it should be marked here. What time is it? We have the live stream for Yellow Jackets season 3 with me and Scarlett. We're going to be breaking it down. So that's starting next Sunday. We are maybe going to drop the episode live as well. It depends when it airs, because if it's midnight, it's fine. If it's earlier than midnight, it might coincide with Severance dropping. So we're still kind of discussing, but all that you can find out in Discord and talk to us about it and all that good stuff. But first it's from tomorrow, so we gotta switch gears.
Right.
But yeah.
And so to clarify, Jamie, for Severance, the actress who plays Natalie, whose name I forget, you're taking questions at Twitter and Instagram that are running across the bottom. But
yeah, don't put the question either in Twitter or in Discord. Don't put it in Instagram. I'll never see it. I'm not a big Instagram.
And so the Discord that you just posted is different, right?
The Discord I just posted is a link to Discord. If you join my Discord, you'll see there's
a SciFi Vision Discord, so you can find it.
Yes, it's SciFi Vision Discord. There's a Severance section, and there's a channel I made specifically for questions. You can do that or Twitter. Basically, as long as you private message me somewhere, I'll see it, but I tend to check some social media more than others. But we will ask her the questions. We will air the video after the fact. It just won't be live, and we might have more live coming up. And yeah.
That character is so enigmatic. Yeah. Some great questions and have a great
talk to get some insight into the portrayal. But yeah, that's all coming up. So,
all right.
Check out social media and scifivision.com for all those great updates. And trying to think, what else do I got coming up? Surface, more hunting party. Jacob Anderson. I talked about that on the other.
Anderson, who is from Interview with the Vampire
/ Doctor Who. Yeah.
/ Doctor Who.
I have an interview with him coming up. What else? Oh, Traders. In case you didn't see the newest Traders, I won't say who, but the person who was murdered on Traders, I'll be talking to Monday. So yeah, all that good stuff, which is of course available on our YouTube as well.
Yep.
So check all that out.
All right.
Well,
all right. So everyone have a good Super Bowl tomorrow.
Is it Super Bowl tomorrow?
Tomorrow's the Super Bowl. I'm not watching it. Actually, I'm working. I have a bartending job at the Ravens Stadium, and there's a big party. There's a big Verizon is hosting a big watch party, so I'm working there because I don't really have a horse in this race. But go Eagles! And also next week is Valentine's Day, so everybody enjoy. And if you don't have a Valentine, we love you, and we will hang with you next Saturday night.
Yes. So that's tomorrow. I didn't even realize it was. Damn. So yeah. We have a comment somewhere.
Jamie's a Steelers fan.
Yes. I'm not a big football person. I'm a Steelers fan. I honestly didn't know it was. Yeah. I didn't know what it was. That's why I asked.
It was a Super Bowl tomorrow.
I didn't realize that. Usually I'm more up. To be fair, I usually do know it's coming. I've just been so busy planning all these watch parties and live streams and shit, because I'm just wondering how many people are going to come to the live stream or how many people are going to.
You're not an NFL fan, but you know television. And
yeah, I know television.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a Steelers fan. When the Steelers play, I watch, but they're not. So yeah, I'm not.
All City, come hang with us next week.
Well, hey, Valentine's Day is the Yellow Jackets premiere, so
Thursday. All right.
Yeah.
So, you know what? If you're on Valentine's Day, watch a show about teenage cannibalism.
Yeah, why not? Right? It's fun, and I like it. It's not what I expected it to be. It actually wasn't as dark as I expected it to be for my opinion on Yellow Jackets. I'm not as much of a fan as maybe Scarlett is, but I liked it. I did like it. I surprised myself. So yeah. So we'll be talking about that. Okay, guys. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. And if you're still with us, thank you for hanging around. And I'm sorry, Michael, that you were late, but you can still stream it again. You can always restream these. That's the nice thing. And thank you to everybody who watched it. Yeah. I was seeing we got quite a lot tonight. So
yeah.
All right.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks. Have a good week. See you all tomorrow. All right.
All right.
Bye.
Night, guys.
Bye, all.
Bye.